morning, Spurs fans. Good afternoon, Spurs fans, and good evening, Spurs fans worldwide. Hopefully you are all keeping well. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for Match Day Live as Tottenham travel up north to Newcastle in what is dubbed a six-pointer today. A huge game, last chance saloon in many people's eyes for Champions League football. As you can see, we've got Paul, we've got Mia with us to join us this morning to maybe get through some of my talking points that I brought up for the pre-match build-up. We'll start with you, Paul. How are you keeping, my man?
Yeah, not bad, man. I'm in a all care, no responsibility mood. I don't care about top four. I just want to enjoy a nice game of football this evening. That's it.
At least it's at a respectable. Is it at a respectable time for you this evening?
Yeah, 11 p.m. the kickoff is, so it's not too bad. Now the clocks have all changed.
At least you have an excuse to have a beer while watching the game if you need it, my man.
Don't know what you're talking about, though.
Oh, love it. And the one and only Mia is here to join us as well. Of course, she is always an early riser, but Mia, it's great to have you on, my dear. How are you keeping? I was about to say
good.
my man.
That's cool. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I know what I'm used to it. Being amongst a lot of men in the community, you know, you get called lad, man, whatever. It's cool. Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, Joe, what it is weird because it feels like I don't expect anything from this. I'm a bit like, yeah, let's just whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's cool, yep, man, because I don't expect anything from it. So it is what it is. So I'm actually in a fairly good mood. I don't really know why, but yeah.
And you know what? Not to give anyone any false hope or anything, but when there's no pressure on Tottenham, they usually turn up. So let's wait and see what happens today. But look, we're going to welcome some guests in the chat. Going to give you some everything you need to know, and then we're going to crack on with some of the talking points. Paul's in here nice and early. He says, it's the matchiest, buildiest, uppiest thing on the internet. Go on, you
I was bored, mate.
We've got Ryan as well. Ryan, I did receive your email yesterday. I'll be speaking to Jack on the watch after the watch round today, and I'll get back to you with a day and time. My man, he says, big up, Jack and Dave. Let's try and do what the Harris Army and Flat Cap Army do week in, week out. Big up, Dave and Jack. Big up, Ryan. Hopefully Scotland's treating you well, sir. Big up, Davey Hamilton. The early cockerel catches the magpie. Come on, you absolutely love that, my man. Baldy Pickle Up says, bright and early and providing content, boys. Respect. Look, you know, a match day, we'll always be here. No matter what time it is, we'll always be here putting out the content, my man. I absolutely love it. I thrive on match day. Dan Coy says, big up Dave and Jack, even though the way Spurs are playing pains me at the moment. I'll definitely miss them during the summer. Then the summer transfer window of no manager and poor signings, if any. Come on, you Harris Army. Look, you know, we'll all miss it. I was actually only saying that to Jack the other day. I was like, you know what? As difficult and as hard and as long of a slog it's been, you know, two days into the summer, I'll be moaning that I want football back. Big up Welsh Gal. She says, morning lads, big up. Please like and subscribe to this wonderful channel. The road to 10,000 is on. Big up Welshie. We definitely want to get to 10K before the season's out, so don't be afraid to share this stream far and wide. Paul Longsworth, big up my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Big up JJ. Great to see you. Big up Jack Bloom as well. 2023 says, hey, Spurs fans. Who else have we got here? We've got Tottenham Forever. Dave, this is my channel. I will be the channel. I will be on. Big up Mia, Dave, and Paul. Big up Tottenham Forever. Hope I'm glad you like the channel. Look, make sure you start getting on these fan shows. Start having a conversation with us. Tottenham fan doing stuff. He says, hi, big up Tottenham fan. We've also got Bill. He says, good morning, everyone. Big up. We've got Lewis as well in the building. Great to see you, sir. Ariel says, if Sanchez plays, will you watch the game? I'll watch it. I'll just be very unhappy. That'll be clear by my face. And no guts, no glory says, big up. Come on, you Spurs. Big yourself up. No guts, no glory. Seems to be that case and that way this season, my man. But look, let's crack into it. And also we've got Ryan. Big up, everyone. So big up all my early risers. Great to see you in the building. We are going to crack into it. Make sure you do smash that like button. Absolutely obliterate that subscribe button. Like Welshie said on the big push to 10K. Let's try and get it done. And if you do like all the content that we provide over here, feel free to support the channel through a channel membership, only a small fee a month, or a super chat. It's a great way to support everything we do here. But the most important thing is we understand times are very tough. Times are very expensive at the minute, so the least we ask is just to get your engagement to the questions, to the talking points in the chat. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, of course, kick off at the slightly earlier time of 2 p.m. today. Of course, we are away at St. James's Park. Referee is David Coote. In the VAR room, it's Neil Swarbrick. If you want to watch the game in the UK and Ireland, you actually can this week, believe it or not, because it's on Sky Sports, which is great. We're first time in weeks. And then in the USA, you can catch that on NBC, I believe, or the USA Network. And if you want to join us back here for the watch along, join us back here at 1:30. And of course, Lucas Moore still out suspended, Basuma still out, Young, Bentacore, and Emerson as well. Ben Davies did return to light training this week. It remains to be seen whether he'll be involved or not. Many people are predicting that if he is involved, he'll actually just more so be on the bench rather than actually starting. And for Newcastle, I'll be honest, I couldn't really do arse going into their injuries. Maximan is actually out injured, which is good. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the treatment Romero gave him at home, one of the games, can't remember which one it was. It wouldn't surprise me that Alan St. Maximan is not fit for this game. But look, let's start getting into some talking points, Paul and Mia. And the first one, not really match related, but we'll get into some of the match up. So Spurs are currently without a permanent manager after Antonio Conte was sacked last month, while Fabio Paratici resigned as the club's managing director of football on Friday after losing his appeal against the 30-month ban. Paul, are you worried about the direction the club is going in, or do the club actually have a chance maybe to reset the direction that maybe we have taken over the last 4 years?
You make it sound like it was like some pre-planned master strategy there, Dave, instead of a series of complete cock-ups. But, well, you know, we've been talking about a reset for Tottenham, and you can't get more resetty than having no one in charge of anything. I mean, we've still got Enoch and Levy in there, but maybe this is as good as it'll get for a while. We've got to wait and see. Look, the most important thing is the manager, isn't it? When are we going to get a manager? Who the manager's going to be? And I'll tell you, if we end up hiring someone that is already available, I'll be a bit pissed off about that. I can understand us waiting till close season. Manager might not want to leave their club. You know, I think that's fair enough and is quite an honourable thing. But if we end up, I don't know, if we end up hiring someone that's just floating around, it's it's just typical Tottenham, isn't it? So who knows? Who knows? It can't be any worse than the last three. Well, it could be, couldn't it? But I'm hoping it's going to be better than the last 3 years, man. I
was going to say, don't bet that it couldn't get any worse, because we know at this club sometimes teams can get worse. But look, I'm one of them. I do think they have a chance, and I think this is their last chance to sort of change that direction and get it right. But where are you at with it, Mia? Do you think the chance is there for them to change the culture now that the managing director or the director of football and the manager is gone?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think this is their chance. I think this obviously gives them an opportunity to somewhat make up for what they have been doing lately. It won't fix everything, of course. It won't for a lot of people. But if they get this managerial one right, and they get someone, if they need a director of football, because not all managers want one. Yeah. But if it is someone who does want one, and we get that right, we get the scouting right. Yeah, man, of course, it can definitely be pushed forward and do better, because at the end of the day, we're at rock bottom, and I feel like the only way is up, right?
Sometimes you think so. Next thing, a hole underneath you opens up.
Don't say that. I'm trying to be a little bit somewhat positive here, Dave. Come on, man.
But you know what? It will be interesting to see if the likes of Greta Steinson and stuff like that sort of keep their jobs long term, because Paratici was in charge of bringing them in. But, I agree with both of you. I think the manager is the most important call. And then after that, sort of getting the director of football. But look, interestingly enough, if it is Nagelsmann, if the rumours are led to be believed, it'd be interesting to see, what sort of director of football they bring in here, and whether he continues on the sort of recruitment the road that we've already gone down in terms of recruitment, which looks like we've committed to that back three wing back system, or do they sort of come in and change tact again? Because I would argue, I would actually like to keep going down sort of the same route, because one of the biggest problems over the last few years has been the constant direction change, and that sort of led to different bits of recruitment here or there, with all pieces of the puzzle sort of being trying to play together, put together, and it sort of hasn't worked. So it'll be interesting to see if they sort of continue on that strategy. And Paul, Newcastle have actually had stability all season long. Spurs have not. They've had inconsistency now for 4 years, and this year it's been a difficult one for Spurs on and off the pitch. Has not having that stability cost us Champions League football this year?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? It probably hasn't helped. I don't know if that's the main thing that's cost us, though, because, I mean, we did have a degree of stability, didn't we? We did have Conte, I mean, on paper, until he resigned, even though there's probably shenanigans going on and who knows what was going on that we don't know about. But, ultimately it's up to the players to do the job. And I think some of them have fallen short. Quite a few of them have fallen short. I hope we change the system, David. I hope we change it, because I don't think we can now, because we got 7 fucking wing backs now. I mean, so what are you going to do with them if you go to a back four? Are any of them good enough to be fullbacks or wingers? I don't know, really. So it looks like we're stuck with it in some form. But, next year's another year. Maybe we will be more stable next year. Look, football's a funny old game. If things come right, I mean, look at Newcastle. They were in a right old hole. And, yeah, they've had a change of ownerships, but it's not like they've spent billions of dollars. It's not like they got in, a top-class manager that you would think of. I mean, I'm not saying Eddie Howe's a bad manager. He's very good, but he's not like a marquee manager. So you do a couple of things like that and things can turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely spot on. Mia, where are you at with it? Do you think there may be that? Because, when I would look at the two clubs, right, you sort of, look, we had the fitness coach, Ventroni, sadly passing away. A lot of Conte's friends passed away. He had the gallbladder surgery, so he's back and forth between Italy and stuff like that. And for me, when I look at it, I think, and all the injuries we've had and stuff like that, and the World Cup and all, I think a lot of that has sort of cost us. But mainly all of our off-the-field issues, I think, has probably transcended to what we're seeing on the pitch. Would you agree with that?
I would say that there's so many variables that have inevitably led to this situation. So, like the death of our fitness coach could have mean that obviously the way that we deal with our fitness is now changed. He was obviously very, very good, so that's obviously something that's changed. The way that Conte wasn't always able to be there because of his gallbladder being taken out, and then him maybe. Not always maybe being there mentally because of his death of his friends, unfortunately. So, and then injuries. So there's so many different things that happen in one season. And when you look at a team who are comparably in a bad situation, the way that they are at the moment is like a Liverpool. They had in their midfield's getting a bit aged. They've had some injuries. Their manager seems to be a bit off key at the moment. Okay, they might stick with him, but that's not the point. But my point is that any club this can happen to at any one season. And with Newcastle, they've had stability for a year, so they haven't hit any hard times yet where they've had a big long list of injuries. So that will be interesting if they are trying to compete in the Champions League. So, I think there's so many variables, but I think nothing cannot be undone. And in like what Paul just said, next season, if we get the managers right and we get stuff right, it can all fit back together again,
Yeah, no, look, 100%. I think, the next manager and director of football is a huge, huge call for this club. But just when I look at the Premier League, you sort of had Arsenal stability all season long, Man City stability for the most part of it. Actually, you got Newcastle showing a lot of stability. United, once they got Ten Hag in here, that stability sort of happened. And when you look at teams that have been sort of destabilised this season, the likes of Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, teams like that, and you look at how our seasons have sort of transpired compared to what was expected, and you also look at the likes of Brighton, who, they lost Graham Potter, but they brought in the Zerbi and stuff like that. And for me, when I look at a lot of the teams, especially inside the top four, they've all sort of been stable this year on and off the pitch. And Tottenham haven't really had that. And I do think that's one of the major factors on what's probably cost us Champions League football. Because, Paul, Tottenham are actually only 3 points behind Newcastle, but Newcastle also have a game in hand. If we lose today, they'll end up being 6 points clear with a game in hand. Is today's game the final glimmer of hope of making the top four for you this season?
Well, first off, I had a bit of a snooze before I came on, so my brain wasn't working. So I think I'll change my mind and say, yeah, we're not very stable, and that probably has cost us. There you go, because you two have made sense there. No, it's not the last gasp, because until it's mathematically possible, you never know what can happen. And both Newcastle and Man United, even though I think they're kind of getting somewhere, they've also had fairly big periods during the season where they fell back. They really should have been sealing this a long time ago. It's a bit like, no one really wants to finish third and fourth at the moment. Everyone's trying to bugger it up. So I don't think it's the last gasp, but obviously 3 points is 3 points, and we want to get them, don't we? Especially, and it would do. You'd like to think that an away result at Newcastle would give the team something to feel good about going forward, and give something for the fans to maybe cheer about. So it can't hurt, but it's not quite the last gasp. No, it realistically, for me, I think the last gasp was at Brighton. So I've kind of lost all hope for it. Like Mia said, I'm kind of in party mood. No pressure. Let's just go out and play football, lads. Hey.
Yeah, look, for me, I think it is last. I think it is last chance. I think if we lose today, I think that'll have a knock-on effect against United, Liverpool. I think the team will also feel it's sort of over if they're not already feeling like that. Where if we win today, we go into the United game with a bit of optimism or still something to play for. So for me, on that basis, I do think maybe, because I don't think there's enough of the right games for us to be able to claw back that points if we end up losing tonight, in my opinion. Because after we come out of Liverpool and United, we've got Aston Villa, who are also on the climb and stuff like that. So I'm just not sure that if we don't get it done today, is there enough games for us to claw back? I'm not so sure. But where are you at with it, Mia?
I kind of thought last week was it. I thought that top four's done. I'm going to be quite honest. And I'm quite, like I say, I try and always be quite optimistic, but I'm also quite realistic. And I just can't see us getting the points today, 3 points anyway. I won't ever predict a loss. I can't do it. So I'd say if we've got a point today, it won't be enough with the games that we have got coming up as well. So I feel like top four is done, but I'd like to get into some form of Europe. So I really do hope we manage to get that 5th place, if I'm honest, but it's really hard with the other people. Like with Brighton, they've got games in hand. Villa are right up our backside. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. But if at the end of the season, them lot up the road crumble and bottle it, then what have they come out with this season? No trophy, same as us.
Yeah.
You know what? Ironic that they call us bottlers. They bottled top four last year, and it looks like they're throwing away the Premier League. They've been on top from week 1 all the way to now, and now they're about to throw it away. Absolutely priceless. You couldn't write it. And people are saying to me, Dave, wait till after the City game. You've gone early with, trolling and getting out the lube and tissues for AFTV. But, however, You know, I'm one of them. I've got nothing to celebrate, so I'll celebrate my rival's demise. So shoot me down if you want, but that's the way I am, and I love it, and I'll never change. Big up Chris Welsh. Big up Peter M. Good to see you. Big up Derek Hutchinson. Great to see you, sir. Chris, of course, lives in Newcastle. Big game for him today. Hopefully you are keeping well, my man. And then Philly says, every team gets injuries. It's part of football. That's strength and depth, excuses after excuse. We don't live in a land of business, unicorns and fairies. Do you know what? Just on that, Philly, I get every team gets injuries, you know, I get it. But, you know, the amount of injuries we've carried at times, you know, where we've got sort of a load of injuries together, you know, it hasn't worked out well for us. It has sort of had a detrimental impact, but it hasn't been the only thing. You know, I'm not blaming this season on injuries. You know, look at everything surrounding Conte. This season, it's inevitably had a knock-on effect and cost us. And not recruiting and sending back a goalkeeper has cost us. You know, there's been many variables just apart from injuries, but injuries, you know, you look at Liverpool, the amount of injuries they've carried, that has led to their demise.
Can I just say as well on that, is that if Arsenal do bottle the league, they're going to blame the fact that they've had Saliba out. So then that just shows you that they haven't got the strength and depth actually when it comes to the crunch. And I didn't just say that one factor. I said, like Dave, that there's many factors, but that massive injury list, especially when we had injuries to the same area of the pitch, it made things really difficult for us, really difficult when it comes to having options on the bench if we've got 6-7 players out, you know. So it does make a difference when you've got that amount of players out. So I kind of think that it does make a difference if you have that amount, because Liverpool are suffering, and they have suffered in the past when they have had like injuries to their big players, and they haven't had the adequate backup. So I think that all teams do suffer from it, but I feel like this season we've had the list of injuries has been ridiculous this year. Absolutely ridiculous for us. It's never ending as well.
Yeah, and then when our backups are who they are, then it becomes even worse, even more of a problem, right? You know?
Yeah, no, that's it.
But look, the injuries have been some of the, I would say, some of the most I've seen in the Tottenham jersey in a long, long time, to be fair. Daniela Zitos this morning, Dave, how's that apple crumble getting along? The Arsenal crumble. She wants it with custard and with cream. I don't really feel that we will get anything today. Look, that's fair enough. I think there's a lot of people feeling that way. Showtime says Newcastle will lose games doesn't help Spurs who can't win games. I mean, look, that's part of the next question, my man. I mean, it's a huge reason. I've got reasons why we aren't inside top four right now. Muddy Pickle says we've missed Bentancur's last minute goals. We've just missed everything he does in the midfield. You want me to be brutally honest, my man? We've got Mark O'Grady says excuses for your rubbish performances. No, not making excuses whatsoever. Just, you know, just highlighting the fact that Newcastle has had stability and Tottenham have had instability. And you know, you look at where both clubs are. It's playing a massive part in it. You want to deny that? That's on you. I think it's just realistic. I think it's a fair point to make. And Douglas Thorpe, big yourself up, my man. He says, big up Dave, Gandalf and Mia. Love from Denmark. We even expect anything today. I don't really see it. Any hope for the rest of the season. Look, like I said, a lot of people feeling like that, my man. A lot of people.
Just like our backline, you shall not pass.
I wish our backline had that motto, to be honest, Paul. And big up John Fernandez, soulful house. Now, next question, follow up. Newcastle, Man United, and Liverpool are our next three fixtures. Look, in my opinion, we sort of need to win all three, or at least win two and draw one. Can Tottenham pull off the miracle that is required? Paul?
Of course you can, man. It's only football, isn't it? At the end of the day, whistle goes, there's 22 blokes on a pitch and a twat in black. And, you know, it's the idiots in a video room. You can always do it, man. You can always do it. Whether it'll happen, I don't know. Look, out of those fixtures, what were they again? What were the three, David?
Newcastle today, then we've got United Thursday, and then Liverpool.
Well, we're not playing Arsenal or Man City, are we? So it's not like those teams haven't lost any games and we haven't won any games. It depends on the day, doesn't it? It depends on the day. But look, if we get 9 points, I mean, look, I probably think we get 0 points out of those 3 games. But if we get 9, hey, then we'll all be turning those frowns upside down, won't we? It can always happen. And there's no. To me, I always have hope. That's part of the stupid thing about being a football fan, particularly being a Spurs fan, is what's the point of just going into every game thinking, oh, fucking hell, find something happier to do in your life. I mean, I'm not saying how people should support the club, of course. You can do what you want. But I've always got hope, man. I've always got hope until Spurs beat the bloody hope out of me with a stick.
I think hope sort of comes with the Spurs starter pack, doesn't it? The Spurs supporter starter pack. First thing when you open it is hope, the hopium. Absolutely.
And do you know what's next after hope is despair. Once you see the hope, then we get to despair.
Bloody hell, every silver lining's got a cloud of you, hasn't it?
Oh, it does. It does. Just quickly, big up Blunderbeat Coys as well. Good to see you in. Tuning for the first time and glad you enjoy it. Big up Sean Lynch. Truth is, without Kane, Spurs will be relegated next year. Hopefully, all up the Gunners. I mean, look, you got to do something to make you happy today. But let's be realistic. I mean, you were the same guy that was sitting there Friday, crying, saying the league was gone, this, that, and the other. So, look, put that chest back in, my man. It's not time to puff it out. You should be embarrassed of how you're throwing away that league. Absolutely embarrassed. Big up Derek Smith as well. Good to see you, my man. Look,
I mean, the Arsenal fans just aren't right, are they? They're just not right. Like, if I was Prime Minister, I wouldn't have any of them living within 5 kilometres of schools, for one thing. So, if you wanna have a bit of a troll, mate, let's bring it on, Gooners.
Oh, love it.
And the last time they was in the Champions League, didn't they get beat something like 10-2, wasn't it? Something like that.
That's true. That's true. And the sad thing is they've been pining for Champions League so long they're going to embarrass themselves in it and get knocked out early. That's my prediction. Mia, look, realistically, on paper right now, there's still a chance and miracles can happen. But based on looking at the form and the overall feel around the club, surely this is a miracle that's not going to happen.
I mean, I think I've got more chance of Romero coming up, knocking on my door, to be fair. But I won't give up hope until it's mathematically impossible. Until it's mathematically impossible, I won't give it up. You have to have that belief, like Paul, you have to have somewhat of belief. Otherwise, what's the point? It's just depressing, Well, I don't want to be sitting here thinking everything's all doom and gloom. So I do try and think that unless it's mathematically impossible, there's always that chance, because you never know as well that Man United or Newcastle could also slip up. So there's also that possibility. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm just saying you just don't know, do you?
No, look, you don't. And look, miracles can happen. But when I look at our form, our overall sort of the environment around the club, I just don't think it is going to happen. I don't see enough there. But also, look, we shouldn't have had to have been going into these games relying on getting points from these sort of games, because the reality is we only took 2 points out of a possible 9 against Southampton, who were 20th at time, Everton at 17th, and Bournemouth at 14th. And for me, that's where we lost it. 2 points out of them 9. That's where we lost that. If we would have got them 9 points, we'd be sitting comfortably inside top 4, and you'd be looking at just going into these games not to lose. But because of the way we've been and the way we've performed, it's flipped it on its head, and we've given ourselves a much even harder task. And when we can't do it against the relegation teams, I struggle to see it doing it against the bigger teams, if you want me to be brutally honest. But that's where I'm at with that. I do believe in the miracle. I think it's important that no one ever loses that belief in a miracle. But for me, I don't think this is going to be a miracle. I think taking an educated looking at everything going on, I don't think it's going to happen.
But you never know. De Gea and and Maguire might give us a helping hand at the Man United game, because they seem to have a bit of an issue.
Look, you never know, but what I will say is they played us off the park earlier on in the season. Played us off the park. I'm a bit fearful going into it, but look, if Maguire, unfortunately, every time he plays, it just seems like even when he doesn't mean it, something happens. Might end up giving us something to hang on to, but we will wait and see.
I was chatting to an Australian mate today, and he was saying, so England pick Maguire and Dyer as their fullbacks. Is that the best England defenders there are? I'm thinking, oh Jesus, the only analogy I got for it is that, like, whenever I play jams and stuff, and people playing guitar, they always want to be the lead guitarist. No one ever wants to be a rhythm guitarist anymore. And to me, it's like no one actually really wants to be a defender. They're all frustrated midfielders and centre forwards. And that's why they don't put the boot in as much.
Do you know what? Just on the England thing, I said this, a while ago, that when you look at England, they've got the worst current centre halves to pick from that I've ever seen.
Terrible.
I grew up, they had Ledley King, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Jonathan Woodgate, Dawson, and there was just so much more Carragher, and I'm even missing a few that I can't think of, but so much more to pick from back then. And now, it's sad that you even hear people still defending the likes of an Eric Dyer and stuff like that. It's absolute madness. Ryan Trestane with the super chat, he says, I love your optimistic views, Mia, but do you really think we could beat Newcastle in reality today with our back line?
No, I didn't think we
said the problems were
I didn't say, but I didn't say we'd beat them. I said that I think we'll get a draw. So actually, I didn't say technically that I thought we'd win. I did say that I thought we would draw, to be honest. And to be fair, I don't think we're going to obviously keep them out. And that's why I predict a draw. I predict a 2-2. So...
Well, you see, what we do is you get the goalkeeper, and he kicks it like this, woo, over the defence into the midfield. We bypass the Muppets.
Yeah, don't give it to our defenders who can't play with the ball at their feet. They just can't do it, so don't do it.
They don't know what to do with it. I want this at my feet. What do I do?
You can't be talking tactics. Players won't want to get on the team bus. They don't like tactics, so they don't. They won't be getting on the team bus if they hear us talking tactics today. But look, maybe to move on to the next point, like I said, 20th place Bournemouth, 17th place Everton, and 14th place, or 20th place Southampton, 14th place Bournemouth, 17th place Everton. Picking up 2 out of that 9 from me is where we've lost this Champions League football, which I don't think we will get. But Paul, now this is a bit of a talking point. I do want to discuss it. I'm going to leave you for a minute because I need to get rid of these hiccups. They're showing me up. But look, we'll kick it off. Paul, Tottenham has had plenty of chances to jump inside the top 4 this season, or even the top 3 at times, but we've squandered it every single time. Is this a quality issue, or is it a psychological issue? Because it just needs to be rectified. We can't keep going through this. Even under Jose Mourinho, when we were top of the league at one point, and then it just comes to a point where we just fail to sort of kick on or take that next step. So what is it? Quality issue or psychological issue?
I think it's both, and I think it is also tactics as well. We've got a habit of, we were at the early part of the season where we'd be crapping one half, and now what we seem to be doing is we go 1-0 up and try and sit on that. Until it's too late. Sometimes we do, just recently we started making more attacking changes, but psychologically, I don't see any. I don't see any strong characters there with any leaders on the pitch. And as far as the skill of the players, there's so many that are lacking. I mean, we've always got the usual culprits in defence, but I mean, everyone's been off it, haven't they? That's the sad thing. When you were looking at last season, everyone was saying Kulu, Son and Kane are feared. They would walk into any team in the world and be successful. And this year, for whatever reason it is, and I think it's probably partly psychology and tactics with that one because they have got the skill, but maybe they haven't been used correctly. Kulu's come back from an injury, so it might be still a bit in his head that he doesn't want to go at full stretch, which I can understand. And I guess sometimes you've got to be patient with a player. You know, it is a big deal when I think it was a hamstring, wasn't it? I mean, that's a bad one for a player to get because you're always questioning whether it's going to go again because it ain't a pleasant feeling when that goes. They've got to show some character. They haven't shown us much fight, have they? That's the thing. They haven't shown us when their back's against the wall that they can fight their way out of it and claw their way out of it. And maybe that will come eventually through just maybe losing those games will, you know, this is my hope. Well, look, I'll be hopeful now, but after the game, that's when you get the doom and gloom side of me, you know. But at the moment, I'm thinking, well, you know, you've been really quite poor in a few games on the trot there. So if you're going to pull something out of your backside now, now's the time to do it. So maybe today's the day we'll find out whether they've got some steel or not, man. You know.
Yeah. Look, today's definitely the last chance to find that out. But where are you at with that, Mia? Psychological or quality, or do you even just put it down to sort of the off-field issues?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm a bit with Paul on that one. I think that it's psychological and it's the lack of the quality and the way that we play as well, because it isn't just the defenders. It is the defenders, obviously, as well. But our midfield isn't good enough with the Skip and Højbjerg. Like, we miss Bentancur so bad. Someone who's good on the ball, someone who can get the ball at their feet and they can run with the ball. They're confident enough to turn a player, you know, with ball. It's just we're really missing. We're lacking that quality in that midfield because it connects the defense and the attack. So if we are playing it out from the back, we have got that connection. But at the moment, we're trying to play it from the back to midfielders that they're just not that great. And if we try and pass it to them, we end up losing in the middle of the field the ball. So yeah, I feel like that there's all different. Like, again, I think it's multi-layered. I never think anything's just one dimensional. It feels like there's all different parts and aspects of it, but nothing that can't be fixed. That's the one thing I will say. We've got a good lot of young players. We really have. So it isn't nothing that a manager can't come in, a new manager, and coach the players, you know. I think that they can be coached, these youngsters. Obviously not the defence. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just saying, like, some of the youngsters, they can be coached, and we have got some good players. So if we start playing a different way as well with the better midfielders and connect better, I think we can improve. But it's just this season has just been a bit all over the place. Let's be honest.
Look, I think I agree with you. I think it's a bit of both. I think psychologically, that's always sort of been around Tottenham, for quite some time. That when you have a chance or when results go our way, we tend not to take that opportunity. So I think, look, definitely a psychological issue, but also a quality issue. I know we've brought in a lot of players over the last few years and stuff like that, but we've still got some players here that have been here for 8-9 years. And also, not just them, but, this season we've had a lot of injuries, right? But you've got so many players who have been moaning about lack of game time in previous years, or players that we've brought in that you're looking, okay, now's your opportunity. Go make an impact on the team. And no one's really quite stepped up to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that it does become a quality issue then as well, along with the psychological issue. And when you've got both, you see what we've seen. I think we've been hanging around fifth since November. It's absolutely madness. Like, we got off to the best start we've ever had to Premier League campaign. And now I'd say we're going to end it with the worst ending we've probably ever had to a Premier League campaign. But for me, I definitely think it comes down to quality and psychological issues. And it needs to change. It does need to change. If any of these players get a chance between now and the end of the season, or get their chance next season, they've got to learn. You've got to start taking these opportunities. But, when you've got players that have been around 7-8 years, some of them who've, and I'm going to argue this strongly, Dyer's case, performed for 6 months out of that 8 years here under Antonio Conte consistently. No wonder why players are coming in and there's no impact off them, because they know they can get away with it. They know that they can sit here for 5, 6, 7 years. And we've got to get rid of that. And I think once you start holding players to account, once you start, okay, you're not performing out the door, I think then you might actually see better quality on the pitch. But also I think you might see the psychology change as well, because people know you don't have 7, 8 years to sit here on your wages without being forced out or anything like that. You have to perform. You have to perform when you come in here. You got a load of new players that we signed to sort of replace some of the old dross, and even they're out on loan, like an Ndombele. So now they're considered passing. You got to ask yourself, why are some of the new guys that we've brought in being sent out before some of the old guard? And it's just madness. It doesn't send a good message, And I think once that is eradicated, I do think you'll see the psychology change, and I do think you'll see Spurs players maybe starting to perform for us a bit more, because they have to, right? Am I wrong?
Well, they might be under a bit of, a little bit of pressure from some of our youth players, like, they're under 17s. Who was the number 11? I've forgotten his name again.
Mikey Moore.
Yeah, he's got some class about him, that guy, a couple of years' time or whatever. And that's the thing. If we lose today, then really we've got, it's just fuck about time. And I would really like to see some young players just given a chance, no pressure. If they don't, it's a big stage, and if they bugger it up, it's not the end of their careers, but some will fly. That's what, it's, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter how old you are, Norman Whiteside, Pele, Paul Allen, these are all young players that have done the job. And there's I don't like that. There seems to be a thing about Spurs and maybe Spurs fans about the age of a player, and it really doesn't matter. If they've got the chops, stick them in, give them a go.
Joe, I'm going to do a bit of a self-promotion here, Paul, because I actually did a video yesterday on that, on my live.
Oh.
I did actually talk about some of the youth players. I believe even it's not so much the under 17s, but the under 21s. We've got some really good players, and some of them have got good experience as well, where they've sat on the bench or they've come on for the odd game here and there. But I think we need to give them players a chance, because I really like an Alfie Devine. He's a really good attacking midfielder. We need someone like that. So, I feel like we need that player. And I feel like he's good, and I feel like he's had a lot of time now, and I feel like he's got experience. Why not? I feel like he's probably a bit more ready now. So those players that have had a bit more experience, there was about 3 or 4 that I said. Dane Scarlett, when he comes back from loan, he's a really good player. Why not, give him a chance? There's plenty of players in our youth that actually are really good. They're actually really good players, and we need to give those players an opportunity. Otherwise, they're never going to get a chance to filter through. What's the point of having the youth if we're not going to filter them through?
One of them could be the next Steve Perryman. He started. I think he was 17. Was he 17 when he debuted? He's 17 or 19, but he was a kid. And look what he did in his career. Fantastic player.
And if you haven't already, if you haven't already, go and watch that video for me, and go and give it a like. Go and
I'm just going to say, Adrian's damn right. My mate plays. All he does is power chords, and it sounds amazing, man. If you're doing something well, it sounds great. So any guitarist out there, stop trying to be a show pony. Get some rhythm going, man.
And there you are, Adrian Tria. And he does say, I love rhythm, thrash, and power chords. It's therapeutic. As long as it's done in the right way, as long as it's not that, I call it pots and pans music, where people seem to be just bashing their instruments around and shit like that, playing the guitar strings off the guitar. Can't have that. As long as it's with a bit of rhythm, absolutely love it, Adrian.
John Lennon, one of the best rhythm guitarists ever. That's not pots and pans. There you go.
Big up, Adrian Chia. Hopefully the script is nice and easy today, by the way. Heart's not in a good way, man. It can't take it. So make it easy today, brother. Make it easy. But look, on the youth, I think that's why the next manager sort of has to be, he's got to want to give youth a chance, right? You got to look at it. You've got Dane Scarlett, Troy Parrott, Gill, Spence, Harvey White, all out on loan. You've got Alfie Devine, Dorrington. You've got Mickey Moore, who looks like a good player. You've got some of the other youngsters that we've signed for the under-21s over previous years, like a Charlie Sawyers, Abbott or Ascot. There's one of them we signed. You've got the guy Sumsup Bell, Will Lancashire, people like that. And then also when you look in our senior team, right? Also, you've got a Dozie coming in. But when you look in our senior team, you've got players that, with a bit of nurturing and a bit of coaching, can become, or from a real good technical player to maybe a bit of a world-class player. It's someone like a Pedro Porro, a Bentancur, a Kulu, a Romero, who was sort of teetering on the edge of, 24, 25, and they just need someone to maybe harness their skills, hone their focus. So I do think that next manager, we have to have that in mind, as well as trying to keep a Harry Kane to sort of maybe keep him and blood some of these guys into the team and tread them in. For me, I think that's what I would like to see the next manager look to want to do, in my opinion, because when you look at Paratici's recruitment, a lot of it was sort of 25 and under. So there was a clear sort of direction that we were sort of going in. Paratici lowered the average age of the squad. He tried to make it younger, but not all them players were used by an Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte wants proven winners. And it's kind of like Tottenham ain't going to give that to any manager. No matter how much we want it, it's just not going to happen. So I think you've got to go down this route. Look what happened with Pochettino. Went down that route. He brought through a Harry Kane. Actually, he's responsible for my hatred of Eric Dyer. He brought him through. Dele Alli, people like that, with what he done at Southampton. And at one point, I think he had 8 or 9 players that he personally brought through and coached in the England team, formed the core group of that England team. So for me, I would like to see Tottenham maybe have that in mind on the next managerial appointment. So that's
just on Mikey Moore, right? There was this bit where he did this free kick, and he got the ball to curve. It was like a bowling ball along the ground, and it was a perfect ball and led to a goal. But more than that, it was the way that he took the free kick. Free kick was given, ball straight on the ground, kick. And the only player I've really seen us do that for Tottenham this year is Pape Sarr. Yeah. He was one that I saw do that. Often when we get free kicks, it's like, stand there, fucking look about, wait for a couple of planes and pigeons to go by. But when you've got a player with an urgent, crisp mind, I think that's gold. And so I'd like to see more of Pape Sarr, because he's got that sharpness about him,
And Joe, what else it is as well for me, Paul? It's the desire, because they're young and they have that freshness. They have that desire, don't they? Because they're fresh, like they're just fresh out the box. So they want to do it and they want to try and they want to do things that other players, they're just a bit old and jaded and a bit like, oh, I don't want to hurt myself. Oh. Where youngsters, they don't care. They just get stuck in.
Shit. Yeah,
man.
This is what's annoyed me at times, right? You look at Pape Sarr, I think we'll all agree. We've been impressed with his cameos, the games that we have seen him. Well, why aren't we harnessing that and using that to our advantage? Danjuma, he's had an impact off the bench the last 2 games. Are we going to harness that and use that to our advantage today? We'll get on and speak about that in a little while. Gil Messi, as much as people maybe didn't like him, he had an impact off the bench. He worked hard. We don't harness that. It's sort of like, we just keep them away from the squad at all costs. Look at Danjuma, barely used. Look at the likes of Gil, sent out on loan. Pape Sarr, not used. Why are we not using guys who actually have had an impact off the bench? Because there's been so many that haven't. Why aren't we using that to our advantage? I don't understand it.
Especially in the modern game where you got 5 subs, You got 5 subs, you can change half the fucking team, man. Why leave? Well, if nothing's happening, do the changes. We've got, and if they are rubbish like Sanchez was, you can take him off again. We've got, it's a different game nowadays. So I think you're right, man. I think you're right.
It's just annoying me a little. Big up Adrian Cheese, this not manhandling. Sorry, that's what we're about to do to some magpies today. He says, I'm handing out brown envelopes at Stockley Park later. Big up Adrian Chia. Get them up there nice and early. Although they've got that much money, they'd probably reject it, to be honest. Adrian.
You know, I've said this before. I'll say it again. So I used to live near Stockley Park in like West Drayton, Newsley. Stockley Park was the biggest rubbish dump. It was like an old Victorian rubbish dump. So what they've done is they've cleaned it up. You know how big businesses clean up sites when they put buildings on it. And I think some of those fumes from like battery acid or whatever have just gone through the air vents into that room where they get all the monitors. And I think they're seeing 6-foot balls, and the lines that they draw on the pitch are all wavy. You know, they're not right in the head.
I struggle where sometimes I'm looking at and it's like it's at an angle where they're putting the line. And I'm like, oh my god, it's not even straight. You know, it's not even straight, for God's sake. It's a joke. It's a joke. Scott, look, the referees need a massive overhaul, you know, as well as quickly as possible. They're ruining this league, absolutely ruining it. But big up, Adrian. This is the second time I've seen this report being put into the chat where it says Spurs are closing in on the signing of centre Sporting. Look, he not only is he a forward, he can play off the left, play off the right. He can play deeper as a number 8. But Pedro Gonçalves, Jack is probably getting out of bed right now with a right spring on, I would say. You know, he absolutely loves this kid. Absolutely loves it. Jack Stuvel will be up here by the time he wakes up. He'd be all over this bit of news. But look, people like Pedro Gonçalves are players we need. Technical, good on the ball, play multiple positions, and regardless of what position he plays in, you never lose that quality. Sporting signed this guy. When Amarin walked into Sporting, he sort of got rid of a lot of the old guard, and he went with new, fresh, sort of young, hungry players, and he brought Pedro Gonçalves in. And you know, after the first season, he was the top goal scorer for Sporting, and since then, every season he's hit double digits in goals and assists. For me, I said it at the time when the Maddison links were there. I want this guy over James Maddison. I think when we look at James Maddison and Gonçalves, I take myself back to Lo Celso and Bruno Fernandes mentality. That's what we need to buy into. For me, I think when I look at James Maddison, I haven't heard great things coming out of Leicester. I heard there's a bit of an attitude problem there. When I look at maybe, you know, why his performance is so up and down, you know, you see before the World Cup, he's been fantastic. Since then, it's not been as good, in my opinion. Why? I think attitude definitely plays a part in that. If you want my personal opinion. Whereas Pedro Gonçalves, I think steely mentality. We brought Lo Celso in here. Mentality lacked, which showed out on the football pitch. Man United brought in Bruno Fernandes. Regardless of what manager they've had, you see out on the pitch, he wants to win. He wants the ball. He wants to show up. He wants to turn up. And we need to look at mentality. So for me, I would rather a Pedro Gonçalves over a James Maddison. Ryan, big yourself
Joe,
up. I'd rather
what?
defenders, man. I'd rather defenders. That's got to be the top. If we don't get some defenders, it's going to be another season of shite.
Yeah, and of course. But Joe, when it comes to James Maddison, Dave, I've been saying for ages that I don't rate him, and I got absolutely lambasted in my comments for it, getting told that I'm actually talking nonsense, that I don't know ball. But I agree. I don't really rate him. There's something about his body language and the way that he is that I just don't particularly like. His attitude, the way he comes across. And I think he's actually not that good all the time. I think he has patches where he's good. He's not consistent. But apparently I got told stats are the only thing that matter. And I was just like, and argue with someone in my chat with them about it, and have this big long discussion, argument about my views on James Maddison. So I'm glad someone else is on board with that, because it ain't just me.
I agree with both. If you like, the times I've seen him, he's supposed to be the the creative midfielder we're crying out for, and I don't see anything fantastic. And I've got concerns over his attitude as well. I really do. So yeah. I'm with you both on that one.
Love that. And DJ Samuel says Pedro Gonçalves, 27 appearances and 14 goals. And also, don't forget the assist, my man. That's absolutely crucial as well. But he's been doing that in Portugal ever since he arrived, my man. A big up Paro Miguel Escobardo as well. And one at F1. Big yourself up. Good to see you in, Neil Shafton. Craig Buller as well. Great to see you. Good to see Philly still with us as well. But look, we're going to keep cracking on, although there are a few people that says you are correct me. You've got Philly and Anthony Rose saying it here as well.
Everybody,
go on. What are you
There
saying?
we go. So actually, when the people come in my chat and tell me I'm talking nonsense, have a massive 10-minute or 15-minute debate with me, trying to debate me on it, and saying at the end that the only thing they've got is you don't know ball. That's the only option they've got when someone disagrees with them. And I'm like, all right, sweet man, if that's what you want to think.
Don't get me started on stats, man. I mean, Eric Dyer can do his five-yard sideways passes all day long and get 100% completion rate. People have got to use their eyes and feel when they're watching football. When you distill it all down into numbers, like the biggest joke, I think, when you look at statistics is the probability of winning. Because all that tells you is, based on the current score in history, this is how many percentage of teams has won. And then it's ridiculous because it doesn't predict whether a team's going to score or concede a goal. So stats are just so... They do my head in. I hate them.
Do you think, though, Paul, that's an age thing? Because now the youngsters, like when we've been watching football, being a bit older, it wasn't so much based on the stats. There were stats, but it wasn't as like hyper-focused on as it is now, where we're from an old school generation where we watched ball. We didn't just go by statistics.
Do you know what?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I understand, like, if you've got a bit of a bent for numbers, you've got that sort of nerdy fascination. I don't mean nerdy in a bad way there. I get that, but to say the numbers are everything and say, well, this player is good because look at these stats, when you can see and you can feel with your heart how fast it beats,
Or
whether you're sweating, whether the hairs are going up on the back of your head. That's how you know if someone's playing well or not.
I've always said, you should always do the CNI test and sort of maybe back up your opinion, maybe using the stats or checking some of the stats to maybe sort of make sure you're sort of in the right ballpark. But look, for me, stats is a part of sports now. It's a part of all sports, right? But for me, I think, I think the stats should be used to drive personal performances. So you say, look, this is where you lack, this is where you're good, this is what you need to go and work on. Go and do it. I think fine. But some of the stuff I see nowadays, it just blows my bloody mind. Like XG. It's like you either score or you don't.
I don't even know what XG. I heard people talking about XG. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it stands for. And I don't want to know. I don't want that information polluting my mind. I want to it's hard keeping your mind pure in today's world. So XG is just going to be expelled. I'm just going to reject it.
And also, people pick and choose stats. That's the other problem. They'll pick and choose certain stats to try and back up their argument. And you're like, is that the full statistics? Or are you actually looking further into it? But no, you're not. You're actually just picking and choosing to make your argument sound better. Well, that
confirmation bias, man. That's all it is, confirmation bias.
Oh, love it. Love it. Big up, buddy. Good to see you, the new YouTube sensation. How are you keeping, my man? 24C, great to see you, says Stan.
Well, there you go. All right, here we go. Here's a prime example how it's bollocks, right? It stands for expected goals. Well, why isn't it EG? Why is it XG? See, that you could just dismiss the whole fucking thing from that. They can't even spell.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Guys, I don't really want to spend too long on this one unless you think it will, but would missing out on the top four be damaging for Tottenham? And would it have an impact on our managerial search, our ability to compete for players in the transfer market? And when I say compete, if you're coming up against other teams for that player, as well as maybe the future of Harry Kane?
Well, I'll go with that one. So if we don't make Champions League, what is it, 50, 60 million pounds, something like that? The thing is, though, that the board's focus is top four. So if we don't get it this year, what are they going to do? They're just going to go, oh, well, we're not going to spend and try and get players to get top four next year. Is that because that's what they want to do? They want to get top four. So if that means to fulfill that dream that they have, I say dream, but I'll give them the benefit of doubt that they have dreams. Then they will have to spend the money irregardless. So to me, it's neither here nor there. And like even when we spend 100 million, half of it's wasted anyway. So maybe it will bring a bit more focus instead of us buying 7 players in a window or however like we did last summer, just 2 or 3 good ones. 2 or 3 good ones, man. You know, that's two or 3 each window. And I'm not saying 100 million, maybe 60 million, something like that. Other teams do well on far less money than we do. I think it might not. It will give us a chance to focus on the league and cups as well. I don't think it's all bad. I know people like hearing the music and all that razzmatazz, and get the chills from it, which is cool. But I don't think it is as damaging as I think, because if there's a shortfall in money, then they're going to have to do it anyway to get us back in the top 4.
Yeah.
So that's Tottenham Hotspur PLC. Or not PLC, PTY Limited, registered in the Cayman Islands problem, isn't it? It's not my problem. You sort it out. You got the cash.
Yeah. Do you know what? Crucial point there, though. If we don't make top 4, they do have to sort of find the cash somewhere to be able to, get us back there. But where are you at with it, Mia? Do you see top 4 maybe being detrimental to the manager search, player recruitment, and Harry Kane signing a new contract? Or do you think we can still sort out all 3 regardless?
I think that when it comes to players, I think they're going to go to, say, like a Chelsea, if it was us or Chelsea, or us and the scum, or us and Liverpool, because it is just the pull of the bigger team. And that's something that we've always had. Like, it's always going to be a factor, in my opinion. So I don't know if really Champions League makes a difference to that in some cases. I think top 4 is obviously meaning that we don't have the money, because the extra money does obviously go back into the whole pot of the club. So it does make a difference in that sense. When it comes to a manager, it might do. A manager might want to, but then they might think, well, actually, if we get into, say, a Europa, that might be a more, a bit of a, not easier, but like a better road to maybe trying to get us further in the competition. And then they get a better chance or a better shot at it in a way. So I think that a manager might be up for the challenge, because even Jose was happy to win the Europa Conference League. So all managers want to be in as many competitions as possible to win them, because they want to win. So I don't think it will make much difference to a manager. I think that the manager is going to have to obviously have in mind that we might not have Champions League, whoever they've spoken to anyways thus far. They're going to have to say to them, well, we might not have top 4. So I think that's not going to make a huge amount of difference. With Harry Kane, I think that he's already got his focus on what he wants. And I don't think that is much difference to maybe the Champions League. It's more to do maybe with winning stuff and the trajectory to win stuff than it is to do with the Champions League. But again, he wants to be on all the big competitions. Of course he does. But I don't know if that makes any difference to Kane, really, if I'm honest.
Well, Daniel Levy's dangled that statue carrot. You might have a carrot. You might have a statue, Harry. If you hang around, if you move, there's no statue.
If he moves, or if he stays and doesn't win a trophy, then the statue needs to be a bit smaller than the ones that actually did win something, because they should be there first. The ones that won us something, Absolutely. They should be having the statues first and foremost above Harry Kane. I'm sorry, that's not a popular opinion with people who love Kane, but for me, it's the people who won us something. They should be getting the statues, man.
Look, it's got to be Bill Nick, Greavesy, Steve Perriman, those kinds of players.
And do you know what? I speak on behalf of the Harry Kane Supporters Club because I'm the #1 fan. I agree with you, Mia. I agree. Look, first of all, I thought it was sort of club policy not to go down the statue route with the new stadium. It looks like that maybe it is now, that we just want to honour the new players without sort of, he scored the most goals, but he hasn't won anything. Like Bill Nick. If you're going to give Harry Kane one, where's Bill Nick's? Where's Greasy's? Where's Perryman's? People like that. Where's theirs? So that one, I think Daniel Levy sort of over-egged the pudding on. I don't even think he believes that himself. I think he was trying to, endear himself into the Spurs fan base and maybe Harry Kane's heart as well.
And
Kane, if you stay, we won't win anything, but we'll build you a statue.
And say if we're in the conference competition next year, I really don't want to poo-poo it, because, well, that's the level we're at, isn't it? It's not like we're hard done by. It's not like it's only the Conference League. Whatever competition we're in next year, I want us to go and try and win the damn thing, no matter what.
Yeah. 100%. Same here. You know, I don't like this. We'll go out with this cup to concentrate on this. Don't like it. Go for them all. Go for them all. I'll ask you this one, Mia, and then we'll move on because I need to start. I have better talking points. So, Mia, could Tottenham's game represent, or could today's game represent a shift in power between Tottenham and Newcastle? Because I would like to think if Newcastle brought in more firepower, they will be a force. And the decision that they, have made so far has been correct. And Newcastle will always, or probably, once they get that Champions League, outspend Spurs with the fire, with the money that they have available to them. And that means then Tottenham have to be more clever and better run. And we're neither right now. So are we in danger of losing that top four spot for quite some time in terms of when it comes to Newcastle?
I don't think when it comes to Newcastle, because what you've got to remember, Dave, is that this season we haven't had a Liverpool or a Chelsea to compete with, and neither has Newcastle. So again, if they do get any form of like Champions League or Europa League, they're going to be confronted with the two. Playing more games and playing those 2 games a week more often. And we don't know how their squad will cope with that and competing in the league to a Chelsea and a Liverpool if they do get revitalised. So I don't think that it is just us against Newcastle. I think it's us versus all the other teams that haven't done well this season, because we've got to understand that they're going to come back at some point and be fighting for that top 4. And Newcastle have always been quite a big team in my eyes, because when I was a kid, they had Shearer and they were up there, Yeah, they was in the Champions League. So, like, they've always been there. They've just dropped off majorly, but they're a one club in one city team. So they are a big club. They are a big club, and they do deserve to be up there, because, like I say, when I was a kid, they was always up there for me. When we were just lingering in like 9th place, 14th place. So I think it will be just a revitalization of Newcastle if they're fighting. But I do think that it's going to be tougher next season when a Chelsea and a Liverpool, if Arsenal are still fighting, and we've got City and Man United, I think it's going to be a massive fight for the top 6, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look at some of the top 6 teams we'll be battling with, they usually outspend us as well, which sort of concerns me a little or alarms me a little. And I feel if Newcastle do get Champions League, that's where you might see them maybe start spending a lot more than what maybe they have done already, which is a concern, which then for me probably puts us further and further back from top 4, which, is unbearable to think of, because I spent most of my childhood and early adolescent years just trying to get into the Champions League and see Tottenham in the Champions League, let alone lose it when I'm just in my 30s. It's not good enough. But Paul, I just need to find, this is a whopper of a question. I know you're not a fan on stats, Paul, but just hear me out on this one. I've always said building success starts out the back. I've always said that. Newcastle signed a whole new backline for Eddie Howe, which has led to Newcastle conceded the fewest goals this season with only 24. Does this highlight how important a backline is? And the reason I ask this is because we've scored 11 more than Newcastle, but we've conceded 21 more goals than what Newcastle have this season.
No, I think you're bang on there, and that's not a statistic in my mind. When you're talking about goals and points, that's not statistic. That's the reality of the game. And Newcastle have done it right. I like yourselves, I find it amazing how Newcastle haven't been more successful over the years, because they are a massive club, and they're very passionate supporters up there. They've had ownership troubles in the past as well, with Mike Ashley, keeping them down a little bit. Yes, that's why I'm saying we tend to like the new shiny creative midfielder or yet another bloody forward. For me, I just want some defenders in. I really do, because once you've got we've seen it so many times. We've seen it so many times. Tottenham start fucking around at the back, thinking they can play football, and that spreads. You know, soon as they do that the first time, the rest of the team collapses. Now, I'm not putting that all on the defenders, because the other players, that shouldn't be happening. They should be lifting their game up if people are having trouble at the back.
Yeah.
But they're looking behind them, thinking, you know, how do I put this? Like the team in the early 80s, our midfield was the first line of defence, but they knew that if they knew they could take risks, they knew they could play some flair football, because at the end of the day, you've got Houghton, Roberts, Miller and Perryman and Clement, bloody Ray Clements behind them. So, you know, that gives you confidence. You know that a mistake is probably not going to cost you the game. You know, you've got great people behind you, and we just don't have that, man. We don't have it.
We're seeing that. We're seeing that currently in the squad right now. You talk about having a good backline means you can take more risks on the ball going forward, right? You know, we're seeing that on the pitch this season. You're seeing a lot of players even afraid to kind of get out of their shape to put pressure on the ball, because they don't want to take any sort of risk, because they know how detrimental it is.
They're just playing it round like this all the time, the little horseshoe, not knowing how to get it in. You know, I mean, you know, if we had a player like Ledley King, I keep going back to the early 80s, but I think one of the best Spurs defenders I've ever seen was Ledley King, man. Yeah. You know, a player like that, fuck me, we'd be so much better.
Unbelievable. And I think, you know, this is why I highlighted it in the summer. I think, you know, not signing defenders or a good centre-back, it would come back and haunt us. And it clearly has come back and haunt us, you know. You look at Newcastle, right? They signed in Sven Botman, being brilliant for them. Dan Burn, being brilliant. They brought in Kieran Trippier right back, you know. Look, he was done at Tottenham, but he's had a bit of a resurgence at Newcastle. He even brought in Nick Pope as well in goals. And that has been a platform for them to build on this season. And then they sprinkled it with a bit of talent, Gameres, Isaac, people like that. But they concentrated on that back line. And I think that's been the difference between the two teams so far this season as well, is the fact that they recruited in the right areas. Now, look, you would argue at Spurs we had so much to do. You're right. If you didn't bring in defenders, you'd be still talking about the midfield or the forward line, right? You know, and I get that, but maybe on hindsight and looking at it, and you know, we should have brought in that centre back. You know, we should have brought it in. A fat little Irish gnome like me should not be able to sit there in the summer and predict that back line is going to come back and haunt us. And if I am, then I should be working inside that football club, because any normal person could have seen it coming this year. Any normal person. So
but
for me,
wasn't that down to Conte though? He said that he wanted two certain players. Yeah, he did. He said he wanted two certain. Hold on, let me just finish what I'm going to say for you. Know me. It was a known fact that he wanted these two centre backs, and they didn't go anywhere. And he specifically said he wanted those. So he got Longley into the fact, looking into that he wants to get these two specific ones. So isn't it down to the manager as well to say, hold on a minute, get me these centre backs, and if they didn't get me this centre back, then I want another different centre back. And I don't think Conte actually did that.
Mia, we got to stop putting all the blame on the managers.
But we're not putting it all on the managers.
No, you are. You're blaming it on Conte. Conte's not here. The same mistakes are still happening. The guy asked for centre-backs. If they didn't get him the centre-backs he asked for, which he was right, by the way, get me the centre-backs I need, look what's happened.
But those centre-backs didn't go anywhere.
To bring in centre-backs, and it's been a longer outstanding issue since Conte. They had time before Conte got here to do it, and they failed to do it. They had time under Jose to do it, time under Nuno to do it, and they failed to do it adequately. Can't just put this all on Conte. It's nonsense, okay? This has been a long outstanding issue since before Conte arrived here, and we've got to get to grips with that. It's been on the club not improving this defence. Can't keep blaming everything on previous managers gone by. I'm not having it anymore. And that's not a defense of Conte. That's just looking at the situation and it being a problem before Conte even arrived here.
But I'm not saying it's just it was just like this season, particularly. Obviously, I know that it's been a past problem, but particularly this season, the two that he wanted didn't go anywhere. And that was obviously the idea, I think, behind them getting a long lay in as a temporary sort of one until we got the ones that we wanted, if that makes sense. So I'm not trying to say for one moment that it's defendable. I'm just saying that situation with this season seems to have been a bit more of a Conte wanted specific ones, and those specific ones didn't want to come because they didn't go anywhere. Those defenders, they didn't go anywhere. So, like, obviously, that could have been one of the factors. Is all I'm saying. I'm not trying to defend it, Dave. I'm not at all. But I'm just saying.
No, look, fair enough, but you know, I've heard a lot of this season. Oh, but Conte said this and Conte done that. The reality is, before the season kicked off, he asked for centre backs. He didn't get what he wanted. And the problem has been here long before Conte got here. It was a problem under Jose Mourinho and a problem under Nuno. And we can't keep washing this under the carpet with previous managers gone by. At the end of the day, even if Conte did sit there and say, and was stubborn on it and say, I want these two centre-backs, go and get them. Because at the end of the day, he was proven right on that. You can't just rock out with Dyer, Sanchez, Davies, and people like that and expect us to defend and keep goals out. And the reality is, it's cost us. Newcastle's backline is the reason why they're inside top four. I
would say that their reasoning as well is their midfield is harder working than ours, and their midfield will get the ball to feet and they're more confident than ours. And that's another factor. Their midfield is better than ours too. That is a big thing.
We only play with two midfielders though. So, I mean, what can you do with that? I hate this system of football. I just want it to go away, man. I don't want too many midfield is useless. It really is.
We're just being outdone every time.
Every time, man.
Our midfielders won't get up with play in possession, or they won't get pressure on the ball when it's put into them central areas out of possession, purely because they don't want to take any risks. And they know once they move out of possession or out of position to put pressure on the ball, it'll just be popped by them to the next guy that's sitting there moving, waiting for it to be popped into him. It's a big problem. But the reality is, we've scored more goals than Newcastle, but we've conceded nearly double the amount Newcastle have, and it's not good enough. Nowhere near it. And what's the story says, big up the Outlet. He says, we will see today who's the best defence. In my opinion, our main problem is the midfield. They don't help the defence out in any way. Do you know what? It's since Bentancur's gone out injured, it's become more and more prevalent, is what I would say. You know, you look at Skip and Højbjerg, very similar, no real risk taken on the ball, even out of possession. Bentancur worked hard, went and chased down things. It's not quite there with Skip and Højbjerg. You know, I think Skip is probably working harder than Højbjerg right now, but I think Højbjerg is better on the ball than Skip. So it's sort of a tough one. But look, just bring in Sarr, problem solved. That's what I say. That bring in.
Yeah, I agree with your old man there. And the other reason we missed Bentancur, like last season, he more sat back in front of the defenders and helped them out, like you're saying. And in this season, he was becoming more of a box to box midfielder. You know, pinching a few goals and setting up things. He'd really grown into it. So without that player that's going right up and down the middle, you know, we just can't cut it. And I mean, in fairness to Skip and Højbjerg, you know, they've got a lot of ground to cover. There's only two of them, but I just don't think I just don't think they're good enough, man. I really don't. And I think, like you said, I want to see Sarr in there. I really do.
Joe, how long I've been? Sorry, I was going to say, Joe.
Football's a risky business. I want to see Tottenham take some risks. And okay, if they take some risks and it doesn't come off, I won't criticise. But if they're just playing this conservative, boring, beige, every meal is a bowl of porridge fucking football, and they lose because of it, then I got no sympathy, man. Jimmy Greaves, right? He said he missed more goals than he scored. You've got to have the bottle to go for it. That's the difference, you know?
Do you know what? I've been calling for Sarr for weeks now, Paul. Honestly, for weeks and weeks. If you go back on my videos, I've been saying this is what I think the predicted lineup is, but I want Sarr. I want
Yeah.
Sarr in that team. I've been saying it for ages, man. He needs to get a chance because he's got that strength. He's got that running. He's got the long legs to get the ball. He wins the ball back really good as well. Like when you watch him, he does really. His tackling's good. So why can't we have Sarr in the midfield, man? He's a hard-working midfielder. He really is. I'd love to see him there.
I agree with that. And when I looked at him in the San Siro, when I looked at him when he came on against Palace, he was good in possession. You know, he risks going forward at times. You know, and I like that from the guy. And I think we need that from that midfield. Like, you know, when you're asking basically Kane, Son, Kulu, Porro, and Perisic to sort of provide everything going forward. But by doing that, there's no one really sort of getting up behind players so that if they need to recycle it from left to right to be able to do that, it has to go all the way back across the back line. There's no one really, if we do put balls into the box, on the edge of the box to be able to battle for it or get a shot off. And, you know, we need that. And I think if you could get Papa Sarr in there, plus the athleticism of the guy, using these long legs, his pace, you know, get after the ball, get hungry. You've seen the impact that people wanting to do that, even just off the bench this season, has had. Richarlison's praise this season came by coming off the bench, chasing down lost causes earlier on in the season. Same as Gill. That's where some of his praise has been this year. Dan Juma's had similar impact off the bench the last 2 games. We need people who, right now, I would say, look, everything is everyone's flat, right? And I think the reason why we haven't seen the new manager bounce is because Stellini is just persistent with everything that Conte done, whereas usually it's sort of changed up, fresh ideas, and you see players maybe respond to that a little, but it hasn't happened. So right now, you've got to play players that want to have an impact, that have had an impact at times off the bench, and you've got to use that. So hopefully we will see.
Well, you know, just like I think the lack of skill and character in our defence infects the team. The opposite is true. Like I forgot who we were playing against. It wasn't the match where Dan Juma scored, I don't think, but he came on and basically Brighton. He just ran around, and by running around, it sort of got other people running around. So even though he didn't actually do much with the ball, that was infectious. You know, that got other people. They lifted other people.
But he pushed them back as well, Paul. When he came off, what he ended up doing is forcing the ball backwards to the way we wanted it to go, not the way they wanted it to come. And it really did help us, Ryan Trestain says, probably unpopular opinion, but no European competition would be a good thing. What's your thoughts on what I think? Do you know what, Paul, Ryan? This is actually a question that I've put forward for Tuesday. For the debate show, along with why we haven't seen a new manager bounce from Stellini, is one of the other questions as well. So look, what I'll do is I'm actually not going to answer this because I'll be talking about Tuesday, but I'll let Mia and I'll let Paul have their say on this. I mean, Mia, where are you at with it? You know, look, the club want European football, right? They want the extra additional home games and revenue that brings. But when I look at it, the likes of a Dyer, a Sanchez, people like that, have they benefited from having these sort of Europa League games, Europa Conference League games, rather than a manager being able to have them on the training pitch all week and sort of, you know, get them to understand what he wants from them sort of thing, or maybe work on their game a little?
I think I think it is manager dependent because we all know that Conte does prefer to have the one game a week because, you know, when he won the league with Chelsea, they were out of Europe, right? That was the year they weren't in Europe. So I think he prefers that. Me personally, I want to be in as many competitions as possible because the more we're in, the more we can win, right? Or the more possibility to win. I know we're not going to like necessarily win them, but you've got to be in them to win them, right? So I want to be in the competitions. I don't want to be out of competitions for the season, no. And I think as well, giving players a week to dwell on if we did lose or draw or whatever isn't good. They need to get back out there for confidence. They need to get back out and play the game, you know, because I feel like sitting and dwelling on it is no good for them. I feel like they need to keep busy, and they're elite sportsmen. They should be able to play 2 games a week.
Absolutely spot on.
Paul, look, I mean, the European competitions have all changed a lot over the years, but I agree with Mia, and Bill Nicholson said Spurs belong in Europe. That's it. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, he was one of the first managers to take Europe seriously. First British club to win a European trophy. I don't care if it's the Conference or Europa League or Champions League, because in my mind, all of those cups are lesser than the equivalents of back in the past anyway. But that's what we've got, and we should be in any of them. And even if it's the Conference League. So say you finish, what was it, seventh to get in the Conference League, you're in a competition with teams of that level instead of the Premier League where you're playing shit teams every other week. That's what you got to go and win. I don't care, man. We belong in Europe.
I'd argue the Premier League is probably more competitive than a Europa Conference League. Maybe I'm wrong there. But I would argue that. But I agree with you and me. We a club like Tottenham. I remember when I was younger, the old lad always used to talk to me about the great European nights. So Europe has always been synonymous with Tottenham. We should never ever lose that at this football club. And I also agree with Mia where, she says, we should go after every competition we're in. That's what football is about. It's about winning. I don't like this picking and choosing competitions, or we'll come out of this to focus on this. And it's like, especially at Tottenham, I don't like coming out of the cup competitions because we were known as a cup team when I was growing up.
That's right. Absolutely. And sorry, the other thing Mia says there, which I agree with, is like they're footballers, play football, not train during the week. I mean, you've seen the Spurs training videos for a start where they're just like in a room full of ping pong balls and stuff like that. It's like a ball pit, Get the fuckers out there playing football. And if they don't want to do it, if that's too much for them, they're in the wrong bloody career. It's in their job title, footballer.
And Joe, what Stuart just said, Harry Kane playing in the Conference League is the saddest thing I've ever known. Why? He hasn't won anything. It's not like he's too big we ain't too big for no competition, man. If someone like Joe cried when he got the Conference League because he was so happy, who are we to feel like we're above the Conference League? And Harry Kane, who's not won a single trophy in his lifetime, to think he's a fucking above it. Nah. And I don't normally swear, but that makes me really cross to think that we're above it, man. We're not above it. No player is above it either. No manager, no one.
Do you know what?
Your first trophy ain't going to be Premier League or Champions League, probably. Your first trophy is going to be League Cup, maybe a Conference League. I put the FA Cup a fair bit above those, but some goddamn thing to get that winning mentality into your head.
Kane's first trophy was the Audi Cup. Look, what I will say is, I agree with me that we should never think we're sort of above the competition. But I think maybe where Steve or maybe Stuart is coming from, I think when I read it, is maybe that with the quality of Harry Kane, that it's sad to see him maybe in a Conference League rather than playing in a Champions League. But at the end of the day, if that's what we qualify, then you're only as good as that, aren't you, really? So, but big up Ryan Trestan. Really appreciate the support, brother. And then we've got Wayne Bonner. Big up, Wayne. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Good to see you in the building.
He is the bollocks, yes.
All season. He's the bollocks, he says. Look,
he's the bollocks. I'll tell you what, he's the bollocks, whereas Eric Dyer is the corduroy part of my sack.
Do you know what, Wayne? I really like Papa Massar. It's kind of like, I'm at the point now where I think, look, I get Stellini has been limited through injuries and stuff like that. But I think we've got to change it up today. I think if you want to sort of see something a little bit different even just something with a bit more energy about it, I think you've got to put in a Danjuma and a Papa Massar today, especially away from home. We can't afford to just sit back and let Newcastle come at us with wave after wave because we will concede. We need people that are going to do something about it, that have no problem chasing down lost causes just to force the ball backwards. So for me, get these guys in, Wayno. Get them in, my man. Big yourself up, brother. Now, I'm just delving into my big bag of questions here because I need to skip down. I've still got loads more, but I want to get on and talk a little bit maybe about the game and team selection today. So, look, basically, Paul, I was saying there that for me, despite being limited because of injuries, and I acknowledge Stellini is being limited because of injuries, But does he actually have to tinker with the lineup today or the tactics today if we are actually to maybe sort of get a result?
Well, the 2 times that I've actually perked up a little bit when Tottenham have played this season was against Sheffield United when we went to a back 4 for about 20 minutes before Romero got sent off. And was it the last game? Yeah, it was the last game where we went to a back 4, and we started. It was different, you know. It was. I'm not saying it was a whole lot better, but that's what I want to see. I want to, and I think we've got the players in our. You know, I'll go back to a 4-4-2. I think we could field a pretty decent 4-4-2 team. You know, Dyer's the Dyer and left back are a bit wobbly. 4-man midfield. I mean, we've got the choice on either wing. You know, you could put Kulu on the right, Perisic on the left, Sarr, Skip or Bentancur, 2 up front, Son and Kane, or whoever you bloody want up there, you know, and use your substitutions. So whatever's happening, this is the thing, you know, we've started making substitutions a little bit early, but not. It's almost there. If Stellini's going on that more progressive path, I really want to see him shake the world a little bit, you know. I want to see him do it sooner. So if Longlay's a little 50-50, I don't want to see Sanchez on the pitch. I'd prefer to see Tanganga than Sanchez. But why have that? Why use like one player who's iffy when you could take that out and put another player further up the field who's good? We've got loads of good players up front and in the midfield that can do the job. So why are we taking one out of that basket and just putting some muppet in at the back just because we always play 5 at the back? I'm fed up with it.
Yeah, look, I think it does need a change. Look, I've always stated I do understand why a manager would prefer to play a back 5 or a back 4 when you look at our defensive frailties. I think if you do want to sort of go and play on the front football, it sort of leaves your back line more exposed, I would say.
They're crap anyway, man. They're crap anyway.
Look, I agree. We're sort of at the point now where you've got nothing to lose, right? It's sort of your last hope. You know, what you don't want is being predictable for Newcastle, United, and Liverpool, because their managers will have plans and traps set for us where they just take the ball and come at us again. So maybe you do want to spring a surprise on them, change it up. You know, what you can't plan for is players with energy, with the hunger, desire to chase things down, put you under pressure and stuff like that. In reality, it's actually sad that it's come to this point that I'm talking about playing players just because they're doing the basics, the basics of possession, wanting to just put pressure on the ball, showing a bit of passion to sort of, chase down lost causes to put pressure on that. It's sad that it's come to this, but this is what this season has come to, and it's a sad, sad reality. But Mia, and we'll get Pauline off the back of this one as well, Mia, if you were Stellini today, right, and you look at our form, the overall feel around the club, what would you do and say to galvanise the squad to finish strong after what has been such a tumultuous season on and off the pitch?
Can I just do the formation as well?
Yeah,
because I had something to say, and you didn't even come to me.
No, because I've got other questions, so I've given one out to you earlier.
Okay. Quickly I would go a bit old school. Go back to 4-3-3, man. If we've got 3 midfielders, then we can protect the back line a bit more with the 3 midfielders. Have the 3 up the front, so we've still got that creativity without having the 2. Because sometimes I feel like the 2 doesn't always connect well or work as well. Yeah, man, go old school, innit? Go a bit old school 4-3-3. That's obviously something that we could do as a formation. What I would say to the players is
just quickly on that, just on the 4-3-3, would you play that with 2 holding midfielders and 1 sort of breaking the lines, or 1 holding midfielder with 2 breaking the lines?
I'd probably play with 1, say like maybe a Sarr who can break the lines, and then a Skippy and a Pierre who can help out a bit more with the defensive side as well. Yeah, so then they're a bit more like they can help out a bit and get back a bit and help them out. But Sarr can be pushing us forward a little bit more. as well. So that's how I would probably try and play it. But
Sorry, let's go 4-5-1. It did as well in 1987. It was so much fun to watch, man. It was brilliant. Kane up front with a 5-man midfield. Brilliant.
I think what I would say to them is give their bloody heads a wobble. That's what I would say to them all. I would give them all a kick up the bloody backside and say, what are you doing, man? You put on that shirt, you should have some pride in yourselves. It isn't just about the pride that you've got for all the other fans that are watching you. Have some damn pride in yourself. When you put on that shirt, you work for that shirt. You don't just put it on and think, oh, it's all right, I get paid anyway. No, we should be making sure that these players have got some bloody pride in their job that they do. That's what I would be saying to them. I'll be saying, buck up your goddamn ideas, put the shirt and have some pride. You really want these Geordies, these barcodes to walk all over you? Is that what you want, is it? Like, what are you doing with your life? That's what I would say.
Look, you know, I think we probably should get you on your way up to Tyneside there today, Mia. I definitely agree with that. Paul, is there any sort of, you know, bar maybe a rousing speech, is there anything you would do as a manager to maybe, like, you know, maybe whether it's like warm weather training, just take a day off, bring them to the pub and piss it up, unload all the problems? Is there anything sort of you would do that maybe you would see that you could try and maybe galvanise this team for the last 7 games?
Well, I don't know about the last 7 games, but I think in the off-season I would just helicopter them in and drop them into Alaska and just say, well, you know, we'll meet you in New York in a week's time if you can survive, you know, because they need to toughen up. And Steve Perryman it was always good at interpreting the fans. Like he used to say at the players, the fans think you lot of shit. What are we going to do about it? You know, and that back in those days, that was enough for the players to go, fucking hell, you know, that's a big deal. Whereas there's more of a disconnect, you know. That was in the you know, look, okay, if I could have a wish list, I would get the players down the Bill Nicholson pub after a game. Stop shielding them, you know, ferrying them in and ferrying them out. They don't see the fans. They don't engage with the fans at all. And I think that puts them in their own little bubble. And it alienates the fan. It's not good for anyone. I know they're all rich superstars these days, but for fuck's sake, you know, go down the pub. And then I'm sure fans face to face aren't going to be arseholes to them because they're still kind of our heroes, no matter how bad they are, you know.
No. Some of them are my heroes. Some of them I'll never respect.
Oh, you might have a little soft spot for Eric Dyer, Ben Davies. I can see you warming up there. Well, okay, those ones don't go to the pub. They can go to McDonald's on the high road there, and they can have a thick shake. But the real players can go to the Bill Nicholson and have a beer with the fans. I don't know. Times have changed, haven't they? I keep hearing that times have changed, but I don't think that's all a good thing. I think more interaction with fans so that they feel what the club is about. You know, you know, they're going to see, and it's not just. It's seeing the young new fans, and it's seeing the old farts that have been around and have some stories to tell. You know, get some of that atmosphere, that lifeblood into them.
Yeah. Do you know what? My only fear of dropping them into the middle of Alaska and making them find a way to New York is, you know, you'd be sitting in New York in 2 weeks' time going, where are they? You fly a helicopter over and they'll have a golf course built, or they'll be out there playing cricket. You know, that's my only fear, Paul.
I want to see them just fighting grizzly bears or polar bears. I'm fed up with the training videos, man, where they're in this creche. It's like a daycare centre. There's not a football in sight. We've talked about this before. They're not playing with the right football. And when they're out on the pitch, they've got like huge Parker jackets and shells, just shorts and a t-shirt, man. Fucking hell,
the old saying, right, Paul? You know, if you're moving about and you're running about, you'll get warm very, very quickly, whether it's cold or not. You know, so the fact that they're out there and then maybe shows me maybe they're not moving enough. But look,
and no gloves for outfield players. No gloves and short sleeves. Fuck them.
Do you know what? For me, I think when I look at the situation, I think they need to all be brought into a room first of all. I think someone needs to just stand up and tear strips off them, tell them the home truth. Then followed by, what this club means to your fans of all generation. Get a few things sent in from kids, teenagers, early adults, middle-aged adults, and then adults, towards, the back end of life, I would say. Get videos sent in from all. Tell them what this club means to them. Then put together an unbelievable video from the Bill Nick days, stuff like that, and really make them understand what this club is about. Because I think they've lost that. I think they've also lost the fact that, that rapport with the fans. And I think they need to be reminded of that. Then after that, take them off somewhere. Give them, I was going to say something fun to do. I wouldn't actually. What I would do is I'd put them through like an SAS military team.
Fucking right, man.
Some team camaraderie thing. And then, send them off for a big piss up for a day or two behind closed doors and just let them blow off some steam and say, right, now let's fucking realign, let's focus and let's go for it. Do we have the time to do that now? Is it too late? Maybe. But that's something I would probably do. Mia, listening to me and Paul, is there anything else you would suggest before we take Wayne Bonner Super Chat and move on?
No, I think actually it's a good idea to sort of do something team building. One of my kids did it recently. They went on the trip and they had to build a raft together. All them kind of things that you show that you've got to work as a team and communicate well as a team. Because sometimes I feel like we don't communicate and work well as a team, and it's that lack of communication in the squad that really doesn't help things. So yeah, I think anything that's team building is it's a really good idea. Let them sleep in the woods in a tent. No luxuries, mate. Let them eat berries. Have to go and find their own food. Some berries. Get their water. Have to filter it and clean it. Yeah, well, I won't go that far, but yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something beneficial to be had. I listen to a lot of ex-players, a lot of ex-managers, and they talk about, sometimes during pressurized seasons having, some of these team building things or managers just sort of changing it up a little, and it comes back, brings them back with a renewed energy and a renewed focus. And look, maybe something like that might help. But again, it's a sad state of affairs that we're having to resort to stuff like Mia said that our son is out doing, for growing footballers who are paid over 100K or over 50K a week. Again, it's a sad sign of the times that we're at this point.
And that's part of the problem here. I hear a lot of people on Talk Sport saying, "Oh, well, managers can't talk to modern, not just Tottenham. Managers can't talk to players that way anymore." Well, that would explain to me why modern players are generally crap compared to players 20, 30 years ago. They're just not as good.
Do you know what it is, though, Paul? It's because everyone wants the manager to be their friend. Sir Alex Ferguson had the fear factor. Jose Mourinho, what made him great is he had the fear factor. And when you have that fear factor, players double think about their decisions. They think, okay, if I do this, will the manager take me out of the team? Will he do this? Will he do that? Will he get rid of me? But if I do the right thing, I stay here, I get games, this, that, and the other. And that fear factor is being lost between players and management. And I think that's why you also see such a high turnover of managers now, in my opinion, because managers are struggling to get whole squads on site, because all it takes is one rogue player now. One rogue player, and it's easier for the club to get rid of the manager than it is the player. And it's sort of like that fear factor. We need to get that back somehow. Like Guardiola has it at City. Every so often he gets rid of a big player. He gets everybody else thinking, falling back in line and stuff like that. Look at the Cancelo move. Look how much it got them City players to sort of fall in line. Look at them now. A manager needs to have that fear factor. I think. Look, I get the world is changing, right? But, I mean, at elite level sports, you need to be told home truths. Some people just don't respond to clapping and cheering and telling them they're the best. Some people need the home truths. I know myself. I'm one of them. I need home truths because what it does, it gets me thinking. First of all, it gets me angry, but then it gets me thinking. And then it's like, no, there's legitimacy to this, and I need to fucking work on this. I need to be better. So I don't think we should ever lose that at elite level sports or in
But
football.
do you know what it is? It's because we're bringing up a generation of soft children, and then they go and play football and they expect it to be treated like their mums treat them. When they say we mustn't say mean words to each other, we must all talk kindly to each other, and no kid wants to lose because they all get a badge for losing nowadays. Like that's why, because we bring up generations of kids who aren't hardened to the real bloody world, and then we send them out and let them play football in the highest competitive and most it's pressurized situation, and then expect them to be okay. No, we need to bring these children up to be a little bit harder, because I believe in respect, fear from respect. They respect you enough that they fear you, because they don't fear you, but they respect you in that level that they don't want to cross that line, because they know, I've crossed that line, That's why, because we've just done that with kids from the get-go. I see kids all the time. I work with children. The parents say, no, you can't have it, no. And then the kid screams a bit and they go, all right, then have it. What are you teaching these children? Honestly, it's a massive problem.
That's what I want.
It's the participation medals I see handed out that annoys me. It's like, when I was at football tournaments when I was younger, not being given a medal for participation and watching maybe another team pick it up and lifting the trophy and having the good times. That inspired me to work better, work harder, be better. If someone would have given me a participation medal, that I'm pretty sure that would have sort of alleviated that, where it's blah, it doesn't matter because, I'm a winner anyway. And it's kind of like, no, sometimes you've got to have that rejection to be able to make that person, make that character, to push yourself to be a winner.
Do you know how much of a mean parent I am? When my kids were little, I didn't used to let them win everything. I used to beat them at stuff, so then they want to try harder. So when I played football with my son the other day and he kicked the ball out of my reach, it's because I've taught him, innit? He's got to be hard, like he kicked it further and further, so I can't get it, and he knows I'm tired. So because I've taught him, innit, that he wants to be a winner. He don't want his mum beating him. He doesn't want his little mum to beat him. He wants to feel like, nah, I can beat her. And that's the attitude I want.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Paul, you were going to say before I really cut across you, my man?
Oh, sorry, you just caught me polishing my gold medal, but that's nothing. I don't want to talk about it. That's why I want Ange Postecoglou, because he's a bit of a scary guy. And also, I heard some of the players talking about Phil Parkinson, the Wrexham manager, and he seems like a proper old school. I'm not saying he should be in a Tottenham, but he's kind of that ethos where it's kind of the Brian Clough thing. You've got to keep players level, not too high, not too low. So you're not bollocking them for the sake of it, but they know what standards are required. And some players do need a bit of fluffing, like going back to the Nottingham Forest side, John Robertson, who was an incredible player for Forest in Scotland. He needed a bit of building up, But other players need to be brought down a little bit so they don't get carried away. And you listen to any old school player like Graham Souness or anyone, or Perryman, that's a really important thing to them. But they also had the grounding of the whole apprenticeship system. Like follow, Mia saying that these young players, they come in, they're pampered, They probably start coming from middle class families instead of council estates and stuff like that. And in the old days, you were YTS, you were paid bugger all, and you were polishing boots for years, and that got the club into you. And you won't ever hear an old player saying that was a shit way to do it and I hated doing it. It was a rite of passage, and it made them so much better footballers and full of character.
Do you know what? When I listen to a lot of the ex-players, managers and stuff like that, when they do, and I'm talking about podcast formats where they're a lot more loose, they sort of really go into they're not the formal answers that you're giving to me. They really go into things. And, they all spoke about, a certain person where they sort of, told them the home truth, sort of gave them that tough love, and it built them up. It made them, it wanted to be better and stuff like that. And I do fear we are sort of losing that out of the game. But, it even goes down to what Pete Crouch said on the Pete Crouch podcast, by the way. I'm passing the pod for the guy because he likes his fans to do that. It's a great listen. I encourage everyone to listen to it. But he even said before, him and his missus were filling up a car at a petrol station near the Chelsea training ground. And the missus turns around to him and goes, "Who's that guy?" You know, in all the Chelsea gear, big massive car, and he's like, he didn't even know who he was. It's like, and he says it's a sign of the times. You got players who've already think they're made it, driving around in the big massive cars before they've even kicked the ball in the Premier League, and it's becoming a huge problem. Like, look, there were problems with the YTS scheme. I've heard some sick stories on stuff that has gone on. But there was benefits to it, and I don't think they should have lost that. I think they maybe should have adapted it maybe a little. But look, that's enough on that conversation. Wayne Bonner has been calling for Sarr all season. He's the bollocks. Yeah, we've all look. You know, I've been calling for him as well since that game at Palace. I liked when he came on. You know, he sort of just kept the ball, moved it side to side and stuff like that. You know, Papa Sarr. You know, I seen a tweet the other day, and it sort of got me thinking. If he was at a City, if he was at an Arsenal, he'd probably have a lot more game time right now than what, you know, maybe at Tottenham, or they'd look to harness them on. He's developed a lot more than maybe what Tottenham are doing right now, which I think was a good way of thinking on that. Big up, Wayne, on my man. Good to see you in the building. Liam says they can always play another game of indoor cricket or some basketball, Dave. We're very fast. I mean,
you'd love to see that, Dave, wouldn't you?
No, it just drives me mad. Do you know what drives me mad, right? You're losing under Jose Mourinho. You're like, okay, I guess they're probably working on defending set pieces. It's a huge problem. No, they're playing cricket, you know. You think this year, okay, Dyer's had some real massive flaws on the football pitch. What's he up to? Oh, he's out promoting the new Nike golf gear while doing solos with a golf club and ball. And it's kind of like, not sure he should be doing that right now. You know, it winds me up. You know, you're seeing players doing the most ridiculous stuff. Like, first of all, when you're losing, I get it. Like, when you're winning, you can have that sort of fun. But when you're losing, and it's clear sign that things aren't going right, so you need to muck in even more. You need to do even more work. And it starts with training with the right fucking ball, first of all. You know, and for me, it's just completely unforgivable, Liam. It's completely unforgivable. And it hasn't worked in the past. This is the thing. You let these guys do it, you don't see any better. It hasn't worked. But then, you know, you go, why do we concede so many goals this year? Surely they're working on defence. But then you hear players are moaning about, you know, and this was the same under Jose as well. Reports came out, and I know you can't believe everything, but, you know, players find the training defensive drills too repetitive, too boring. They're staying on them for too long. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, yes, because the biggest problem is conceding goals. So if that's your biggest problem, that takes more time to work on. So to me, it all makes sense. But to some of these players, it doesn't. Don't get it, Liam. And then big up Jacko. By the way, Jack, I'm sure you'd see the news that Tottenham are looking to pursue Pedro Goncalves. So I said that you'd probably wake up with your duvet up this high, up above you. So hopefully you have enjoyed that news, Jacko, and I'll see you on the watch along, my man. Everybody, we're going to go for about another 10, 15 minutes. Please smash that like button. Absolutely obliterate. We're constantly on the ropes in a fight with the algorithm. We want to win that too. Smash that subscribe button. And also, for the last few minutes, if you have enjoyed the show, enjoyed the conversation, you know, actually respect the fact that, you know, you managed to get me out of bed early, Paul staying up late, Mia, well, she's up anyway, to be fair. But, you know, if you respect that, feel free to put in a super chat with, you know, your thoughts, maybe even if you just like the show, saying good job or whatever. It's a massive support to everything we do here, but at least keep engaging with us for the last few maybe talking points that you've done so brilliantly with us today so far. Now, I do want to have a bit of we will chat on the back line. Actually, we'll stick on topic, even though it drives me insane. And then I want to have a bit of a chat on Kulusevski just after, maybe before we end off. But look, guys, Stellini does have a decision to make in the heart of the defence today after Clement Lenglet limped off during our defeat to Bournemouth. Now, it's not quite, you know, no one's quite sure the extent of Lenglet's muscle injury, but Davinson Sanchez did replace him, and look, he was booed all game. Rightly or wrongly so, I'll leave that up to the individual. You know, that's your own opinion, but should Sanchez play again today? Because I do think Stellini will stick to the back five. So should Sanchez play today again? Or do you think Tanganga should be given the chance? Look, we'll start with you on this one, Mia.
No, I don't think so, because I feel like for himself personally, I think that to have that done again to him is just, it's not good. Like, as a person, I know that people don't want to talk about the personal side because he's a footballer and he gets paid money, but ultimately he is a person. I just think, as well, for his confidence, I just don't think it would work. I think he'd be so nervous, and it would be even more risky to play him than not to play him, in my opinion, because it's too much of a risk. Way too much of a risk. So no, I would not play him. I'd actually play Tanganga, although I don't particularly rate him either, but I would play him over Sanchez 100%.
Yeah, it's sort of pick your poison today, ain't it, Mia?
Yep.
Big up, Richard.
We're going back to the battles of the micro penis battle.
Yeah, we're back at that stage. Unfortunately, I'll probably win, to be honest. Only messing. They say I'm hung like a donkey. But Paul, my man, Paul, where are you at with it? Tanganga, Sanchez?
Well, if we play a back four, we don't have to worry about it. But assuming we're going to play with his boring Italian style football, look, if Sanchez plays, I hope that he has a good game and proves everyone wrong and puts a smile on people's faces. Because I mean, really, like, even though he got a load of stick, and I think it was kind of deservedly so. I'm not someone that thinks it was wrong to boo him, and I get he's a human being, but he's also a millionaire in a Spurs shirt, so my sympathy is somewhat limited for him, because he can always walk away and have a very, very happy, comfortable life that a lot of us don't get to have, you know.
But
and that's at our expense.
Can I just say, Paul, on that matter, look how many rich people there are that are really unhappy and they have mental health issues. So I don't think the amount of money affects mentally how you feel as a person. That's all I would say about it. That's why I was a bit
you make your choices. You make your choices. You chase your money, and you fill a void that can never be filled. And you go the materialistic way, and that's what happens. You know, it doesn't buy. I agree, it doesn't buy happiness. But I do think that he can walk away and be happy, you know, not face some struggles that other people are struggling. He's in a very, very privileged position that the fans have given him. But to shut everyone up, if he doesn't even have to have a fantastic game, you know, he just has to do all right, you know. Emerson Royale got a load of stick, and he started playing. I wouldn't even say he's brilliant, but he started playing okay, you know. Wasn't like fantastic, you know, give him an extension, but it was good enough that it's like, okay, all right, you know, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. So Sanchez could change it all in one game, and if he hasn't got the bottle to do it, then if we play him and it breaks him, that's football, man. He's in the wrong sport. He's got to go, you know. You can't protect people. You can't protect people from the fans, and fans that travel up and down the country and watch shit performance after shit performance from a guy that falls over a painted line on the pitch. They're going to get pissed off, you know, rightly or wrongly. I can understand them booing him, and he can turn it all around with one half decent performance. That would be all it would take. If he can't do that, then fuck off.
While I always say that if people want to boo, obviously that's up to them. But what I don't understand, Paul, is that it was an easy scapegoat. Because why aren't they booing Dyer every week, every kick of the ball? Why aren't they booing Lloris every time? And that's why I don't agree with booing just Sanchez, if that's like how we're going to go down that path, if that's the path you wish to lead.
No, and I'd agree with that. And I think I was on... it might have been Mile High Hotspur the other day. Leo's channel over there. He's on the road to 1,000 subs, so flick over to there and give him a subscription. My only reservation with the whole booing thing, and this probably goes back to when I was following football in the 80s, when there was a lot more racism. I kind of think, do people boo black players more than white players? And I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. So the thing that would make me a whole lot more comfortable is hashtag boo Eric Dyer. Let's level the playing field and boo him off the pitch. Because you're right.
He should have been booed a long time ago.
Long time ago. So, you know, come on, you know, if you're going to boo Sanchez, you've got to spread it around.
On Sanchez, I think, look, I do think Stellini and Mason have to take a bit of the blame here. And I'm not saying take the blame for his performance, because that's on him at the end of the day. Only he can control that. But the warning signs were there against Milan with bringing this guy off the bench. He was booed when he was the next substitution to come on. you know. So the fans already made themselves heard on him. And look, when it comes to Sanchez's case, for me, it comes down to the years of it, the years of the fuck-ups, how consistent they are. Nothing else to do with anything else. It's purely based on the football. The guy has not got better. And yeah, people are going to say, but Dave, how do you expect him to get better? He's not playing week in, week out. Well, he's not playing week in, week out because anytime he plays, he makes mistakes. And it all starts with him. You put into a string of good performances, you earn the trust, which then gives you game time. You play well, you keep your spot. You keep fucking up, you keep making mistakes, you keep falling over the way you're doing. Expect it to happen. At the end of the day, we say these footballers are humans, but so are fans. And there's only so much shit people can take. There's only so much they can take off these guys. And it came out in that game. And look, I don't think it was, just at him. I think it was used to sort of just boo what was going on in general, boo the bigger picture, Daniel Levy, Enoch.
It wasn't, Dave. It was every kick that Sanchez took. It wasn't booing all the players. It was just booing every touch that he got before he made the mistake.
What I mean is, Mira, you're not understanding what I'm saying. What I mean is that I think, look, he was the tipping point to it, but then booze is I think it's just a frustration of a larger problem is why it happened. And I get he got it. But at the same time, this is a guy that has cost us so many games. He's cost us so many cup competitions. It was going to happen. This shit can't keep continuing. It was always going to implode like this. Always. And nobody wanted to step up and stop it from happening. The warning signs were there. So this is the result of it. This is the result of the fans' frustration. This is the result of fans having to put up with this crap for 4 or 5 years. I grew up watching Ledley King, Michael Dawson, people who could fucking defend. Not this clown. And I'm not having it. Yeah, they're humans, but so are fans. And when you're human and you've had enough, a boiling point is reached and it comes out. And unfortunately, he's the guy, because the reason why he got it specifically on that day, and this is where I disagree with Paul, I don't think it's to do with anything else that Paul was mentioning. The reason why he got it specifically is because the goal came when he came on. And the 2 goals came when Romero's moved from that side and he came in. So that's why he gets it. He was directly responsible for some of these goals, and it's just not good enough. It's been all season long, 4 or 5 years of it now, and fans have had enough. As much as we want to say these guys are humans, well, they're exceptionally paid human beings. But ordinary, average, working-class fans who break their bollocks to get to games, who earn 400 quid a week, have families to provide for, and the only 50 quid they get to themselves to spend on a match ticket, they're human too. And I'm sick of fans constantly taking the blame. You look at what happened at United fans storming the stadium, fans painted in a bad light. You look at West Ham fans before that, getting aggro with their owners, and made it known in the stadium. They took the flak for that. Well, it's like the wild, wild west out here for the owners. They can come into a football club knowing the fanatical support it has in England, and that's why they bite them. They can do what they want with it. And fans are standing up and saying, no, not anymore. You're going to start doing stuff in our best interest. And as soon as they do, they're bloody ridiculed for it. And I've had enough.
But again, why don't you boo? Again, why don't they boo for years? Why don't they boo years and years of Dyer doing rubbish? Why was it Sanchez particularly? That's why I say, draw the line, because they don't do it to they don't do it to Dyer, who plays week in, week out, who is chosen.
Agreed.
And they don't do it to Lloris. So why did they scapegoat? I thought that Sanchez was an easy scapegoat. That is my point.
But he's also the worst as well, man. He is the worst.
Is he worse than Dyer? Cost us more mistakes than Dyer? I don't think he's cost more goals than Dyer, though. Not this season.
Because he hasn't had as many minutes, but every time he's on the pitch, he is absolutely useless. And I mentioned the racism thing because that's what I used to see in the 80s a little bit. So you might be well right there, David. It might not be a factor. But I take your point, I think it's a boiling point, Every fan has got their boiling point. Like, even if Harry Kane went on the pitch and got his knob out and took a dump on the centre circle, fans would boo him. So everyone has got their point at which they have had enough. And I think fans have had enough. And I think that's a really bloody good point, man, that you raised there, David, that fans are human beings too. And they make a lot of sacrifices to follow this bloody club. And when they see players that are just not fit to, it's like Sanchez can't even play football in the slightest. So why the hell is he there?
I'm not trying to defend Sanchez's ability as a footballer because honestly,
Yeah.
he is Bambi on
Yeah.
ice. Like, I'm not defending that at all.
No,
but
I
what
hear
I'm
you,
saying,
Pete.
like, I feel that it is just an easy way to go to get frustrated, and then all of a sudden you take it out on Sanchez. We've had weeks of Dyer making mistakes and fucking up and costing us goals. We've had weeks of Lloris messing up and costing us goals, but nobody boos them. And that's where I kind of say that there's just an easy way out with Sanchez.
#boo Eric Dyer. Let's get it viral.
That's what you want to do.
I think the reason why Sanchez got it right is because many fans seen Bournemouth as a must-win, and if you don't win that, top four is over. And then when he came on the pitch and sort of what transpired.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I think that's why he got it. I think if that was an Eric Dyer who came off the bench in that moment, in that sort of environment where many fans thought it was last chance saloon, I would like to believe, and I still believe he would have got it as well. You know, I think it was just the fact that was him at that moment in time, in that high pressured situation where many fans, it was sort of do or die for them. I think that's why.
But one of the goals was partly down to Porro as well, but nobody booed Porro. That's what I'm saying. Like, I understand why people boo.
Had to put up 4 years of Porro,
but then you should boo the whole. If your frustration is about that specific game because it's the top four, then that's a reasoning that you're trying to give. Then boo the whole team because the whole team performed badly. That's where I'm saying, like, I feel like I don't believe in booing. I don't think it achieves anything. But to me, if you want to boo the whole damn team if they play bad. It don't matter. If you're frustrated with the whole team, boo the whole team then. Don't just pick on one player when other players have been rubbish for years or that team have been rubbish on that day. That's where I say. That's why I think it's an easy scapegoat, in my opinion, just to pick on Sanchez and not the whole team or not individuals. If you're going to pick on individuals, go ahead and boo Dyer. #boo Dyer, like Paul said, if that's what you want to do.
But look, let's not pretend that Hugo Lloris doesn't get it online or that other players don't get it in other forms, because they do.
But they don't hear it in the stadium like Sanchez had to. That's completely different online. They can block that out. But on the stage, when you've got all those people booing you, that's a massive difference, Dave, to having people online where you can block people or not look at it.
Well, I think it's actually more real than doing it online because the players don't see it online. At least
exactly.
The fans have not got the chance to say in person to whatever player you're rubbish, and that's the way they do it, and it comes out as a boo, and it's very clear and understandable.
That's what I was saying. That's what I'm saying, Paul. People say that obviously Dave's saying that Dyer gets it online, but he can ignore that. But no one does it to him on the pitch.
He does. Look, these players do get it in the stadiums there. Like when I've been there over the last few years, Dyer has got it if he's made a mistake. Hugo Lloris has got it if they made a mistake. Okay, they haven't got it to the extent Sanchez got it, but I think with the situation of that, I think that's what sort of heightened it, and where fans have said, you know what, I've just had enough. You know, we pay massive money for TV channels to watch these games, massive season ticket prices, most expensive in Europe. Travel up and down the country on away games all across Europe, support these guys. Stood there clapping, applauding, come on guys, get behind them and everything else. And it just got to the point where fans, I think you just like, look, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, what's clapping got me? It's got me nowhere. Let's try another tack. And then also you see the result of that. But to be honest with you, over the majority of things, these players are mollycoddled. They are shuttered away, same as owners. If they wanted to actually have an open line of communication with fans where fans could express their concerns or express their frustrations, maybe you wouldn't see that happen in the stadium. That's my opinion. But these people...
Ange Postecoglou has frequent conferences with a load of the Celtic fan channels. So I'm just saying, you know, we get Ange Postecoglou. You might be in the front line there, David, asking him the questions, you know.
Might be. Who knows? But look,
can I just say that I really am not saying that no one should boo. If that's what you choose to do, I'm not telling anybody what they can and can't do. You support the team. You support the team how you wish to support your team or not support your team. You know, whatever which way you want to do it. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to tell anyone. I'm giving my opinion on what I think about it. Mm-hmm. So it's no reflection that I feel like on anyone else. Like I don't judge people who do it. That's up to them. Like obviously.
Yeah.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And look, we'll move on to the last talking point then. Is it a little bit about Kulusevski? So, look, Paul, we'll start with you on this one. Kulusevski began life at Tottenham in blistering fashion with goals and assists plenty after his January move last season. But he's found it a lot tougher this season, only managing 2 goals and 7 assists across 30 matches. So I want to know, have defenders figured out how to play against Kulu? Or is it just simply a young player going through a tough period?
I think it's the latter. I don't think they figured him out, and I think the injury he had as well. I think he's still. We've got to be patient with him, and when I say patient, that doesn't mean that he should start every game as well. He could come on as a sub like we did with Son. That's what I'd like to think. The other thing, that possibility could be that he's caught the Tottenham disease of just signing for Tottenham and becoming a bit shit after 6 months, which I really hope isn't the case.
You're working too hard. What are you doing? We don't do that here. Take it back 10 steps.
Yeah. Should I have a 5 iron or a 3 iron on this hole? What do you reckon, Eric? Look, it doesn't look like he's not putting in as much effort. It's just that he's like I'm saying, it really looks to me like he doesn't quite trust his body enough at the moment. But I definitely don't think defenders have figured him out, because even when he's he hasn't been as good as he is last year, but it's not like he plays a whole game and he does nothing good. Whereas last year it was always an exciting prospect when he had the ball. This year, even if it's exciting 10 or 20% of the time, there's still something there, I think. So I hope we're patient with him. But as I say, patient doesn't really necessarily mean first team selection every time. If there's someone like Richarlison, or I don't know if he really plays on the right, but someone who can just put in that role and bring him on as a sub, and let him play his way back into fitness and confidence that way.
Would you drop him out and start Danjuma today?
Is Danjuma where's Danjuma's natural position? I'm not really sure. I haven't seen enough of him. Is he left, right? He
was a striker, but Villarreal moved him out to I believe the left hand side, and that's sort of where he's sort of played when he's come off the bench at times for Tottenham.
Yeah, then no, I'd play Kulu.
Okay, interesting. Me, where are you at with the whole Kulu situation? You agree with Paul that it's just a young lad maybe going through a bit of a difficult time and he'll come out the other end of it? Or do you think maybe he needs to adapt his game because he's been figured out? And would you start Danjuma over him today?
I think with Kulu, I think it's different things. I think that he's young, and sometimes they do have that inconsistency. I think his injury is playing probably on his mind a little bit, and I think the way that we play isn't good for him. I think that Kulusevski needs to be played maybe slightly differently into how we're playing him now. I think that we're not playing to his strengths. Because he is really strong when he runs on the ball. He can go down those channels and cross it in, because he was so good in his when he first come, and I felt like we played more to his strengths. So I think that it's maybe a mix of different things, to be honest. And I wouldn't mind seeing Danjuma on today, actually. And then if it doesn't work, bring Kulu on. That's what I always say. Like we said earlier, there's plenty of subs to change it up if it doesn't work. And I think that Danjuma deserves a chance, because when he come on, he looked so promising. He looked like he wanted to get stuck in, and give Kulu a rest and maybe give him a little bit of time to sit and think on the bench, because sometimes that's mentally what players need, because they want to come on the bench. They want to come on, so they don't want to sit on the bench. So they're going to think, hold on a minute, I want to be playing. So they're going to try and prove themselves a bit more, because maybe he just needs a bit of a push as well sometimes to have that competitiveness of knowing that he isn't going to get in the team. So yeah, man, why not try Danjuma, try Sar, mix it up a little bit, mix it up.
Yeah, do you know what?
I agree with you. Yeah, you spark something in me there, Mia, where we're also we aren't playing him at his best, and he's relying on Højbjerg and Porro to get him into the game, because if they don't, he's to drop back more. And when he was playing really well last year is when, when Bentancur, he was linking up well with Bentancur, and also when Emerson was playing well, he was playing all right then. So there's a bit of that in there as well. But yeah, look, if you want Danjuma playing, fuck it, I don't care.
I just think we need a bit of freshness today. I think we need something sort of different, Let's wait and see what happens. With Kulu, I think when I look at him, I think he's still doing a lot of the same things. You're cutting in on the left, crossing it, beating players and stuff like that. Look, it's just the end product's not there right now, It's just not there. And look, you go through periods like that as a footballer where, you're hitting the ball, you're not quite hitting it like you're used to hitting it and stuff. But that also comes back off the back of a hamstring injury or stuff like that, where, that confidence isn't maybe there, but also that rhythm that you were in before then isn't there. And I think he's probably feeling the effects of that. Let's wait and see whether he gets it back, but that's my take on it. Not that I've ever had a hamstring injury, because I didn't, but what I will say is, there are just sometimes in football where you're still doing all the same things. It's just not coming off for you like it did before.
Yeah, what you say there is right, David. He's coming inside more than he used to, isn't he? Earlier, like he would go more down like the Chrissy Waddle channel, almost to the touchline, and then jink around a couple of players. So he's not doing that as much, is he?
No.
Look, I think as well, when I look at last season, in and around this time, was probably a bit before that, I think, wasn't it? Conte dropped him for the Leicester game, started someone else over him, took him off, brought Kulu on. I think Kulu ended up going on the winners that game and sort of sparked him back into life when he was going through maybe a bit of a down spell. So maybe taking him out today, bringing in a Danjuma, might spark him, bring him off the bench and let's see what can happen. I think.
I like the cut of his jib. He seems to be a player with a bit of bollocks about him. When I hear him speak, he says the right things. So I'd be more inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. But maybe start Danjuma and bring Kulu on as a sub. Like we did with Son, and why not?
I just think every so often a young player needs to sort of take a step back out of the team for a game, just to sort of remind him in his head, freshen it up, and not get too complacent. And maybe that needs to happen today. But look, let's wait and see. But I want to go around the house. I want to get the score predictions. Paul, brother, thank you very much for your time this evening over there for you. What's your score prediction for today's game?
Well, I was a bit I'm the same what I say every week, man. I was a bit pessimistic before I came on the build-up, but now I'm pumped. I'm pumped, man. So I'm
and it wasn't even a really pumpy up one today. It wasn't even
delusional today. No. I reckon I love that name, the Barcodes. I've never heard them Newcastle called that before. That's brilliant. Thanks, Mia. So I'm going Spurs 3, Newcastle 0. I think if we play Sanchez, I think he's going to prove all the haters wrong. I think he's going to score a fucking goal. I think Sanchez is just going to go on a crazy run and score one. And I think Kulu, because I'm starting Kulu, you naysayers, he's going to get one. And Harry Kane always gets one anyway. So I'm going 3-0, the mighty Lily Whites. Come on, you Spurs.
Love that. You'll have someone now putting a fiver on that. I would warn you, don't. I don't think it's going to happen, but you definitely will. But
save money. Put your house on it, man. Kids, college, everything.
In times like this, optimistic fans are needed. And, you suffer, I admire that. I admire that through all this, you can still find that optimism for today's game. And look, you're probably right. We shouldn't give up. We still got one last chance. Let's see if we can take it, eh? Mia, what's your score prediction? And plug the video on Spurs Between the Lines here that you want people to get over and watch, my dear.
I would say, Joe, I'm not going to be as optimistic as Paul. I'm going to be a bit more realistic in my score prediction. I think
realistic.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2-2. I think I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think that we have got the ability to score, but we haven't got the ability to kick them out. So yeah, I think for me, and at home they're very rambunctious bunch, aren't they? Up there, with a good atmosphere. I think that I think they're going to be like really cheering their team on. So I think it's going to be a 2-2 to me. And the channel, I did that video, like I say, yesterday on my live about some of the youth players. So get over and watch that. Give it a like and a watch, and a comment as well, because the comments always really help. And I always do lots of different kind of content. I've obviously done the preview with you guys, you and Jack. I do shorts, so go over, watch all my content. Just sit there for hours on end and watch all of it, and then give it all a like. That's what I say. And if you don't, then you should give your head a wobble.
There, you heard it there first. So wobble your heads or get over there, one or the other. But do get over and check out his channel. Like me, myself, and Jacko were on it. It was more of a Dave takeover, to be honest. I didn't shut up talking, but it was a good show. Get over there, check it out, and also the video about some of the youngsters that Mia thinks has a future. So get over there and check that out. Lad, is
I don't have my own channel to plug, but now that United Spurs of America, Jacob and Mike's channel, has crossed the 1,000 subscriber threshold, they're all monetized. They're all part of the money making world. So it's a great channel. I love the vibe of what they talk about. So you can head on over there and give them some membership, or do all the super chat stuff, and help their channel grow, because I think they do a really good job over there.
Oh, and the other thing, you can be a Patreon member on mine, because I'm not quite monetized yet, because I'm still just a baby channel. So you can help me out on Patreon on my channel, to be fair. So if you do want to go and help me on that, I really do appreciate it, because it starts at just a couple of dollars. So like it's a $3. So it does really help.
Yeah.
Listen to your old man there as well. 3-0.
Yes.
Do you know what? And then big up the old lad. Yeah, he's pumped. I don't know where he finds it, I don't know where he finds it. And then Neil Shafton says, Dave, I appreciate your optimism. I actually don't have any this week, I haven't had any for 2 weeks. He says, but please don't get so angry and scram and stress. If we lose, your passion is great. Do you know what it is, Neil? I can't help it. Like, it's just in the moment. This anger just takes over me, and I just can't help it, man. I try. I've had my parents tell me, Dave, you need to relax. You're going to have a heart attack one of these days. And I take everything that everyone says to me on board. In the moment, I just can't take it, man. It kills me.
Just let it all out,
Guys,
that's what football's for,
All of you need to get in on the bets, because we're all betting on what point that Dave's going to have an actual proper breakdown, because of the way that he has. We've got bets going. We've got it all sorted.
I just can't.
Well, me, as usual, I'll have the I'll be watching the game, and I'll be listening to you and Sean and Jack do the watch along, because I much prefer listening to you guys, passion and all, anger or all, joy and all, because it's what I'm feeling. I don't want to hear fucking Martin Keown talk about Tottenham. Fuck you, Martin. I want to hear some Spurs fans.
Yeah. Look, I just want to win. When we win, I enjoy it so much. I have a great laugh with it and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get the win today. Look, I'm going to go 1-0 Tottenham. Don't believe it. I just never, ever, ever going to say Tottenham are going to lose or draw a game. I always want to believe and have that hope that we're going to win. Harry Kane has 8 goals and 1 assist on 8 journeys to Newcastle. So on that basis, Harry Kane to score me the goal today that gets that win. But look, we are going to have to wrap it up, because I do have to head over to We Are Tottenham TV. I want to say a massive thank you to Paul and Mia for giving up their time and getting on here nice and early with me this morning. I want to say a massive thank you to all you guys at home who have probably told the wife and kids, go off, do something today. I'm staying at home. I'm watching Dave, Mia, Paul. I'm watching Tottenham. So massive thank you to you guys for tuning in and the support that you absolutely give us. Just if you haven't checked out the video we've done on Nagels, man, check out exactly why I think them rumors are true. And I think it's not what anyone said to me. It's from the research I've done. I'm about to go from a man to a choir boy in 10 point something seconds. So I'm going to end off. See you all back here, 1:30 for the watch long. And as always, it's game day. Chest out. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.